All right, we are on the air, and I am going to call this meeting of the Town Board of Estes Park into session. Anyone who would like to stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance with us may do so. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll go to agenda approval. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Trustee Hazelton moved to approve the agenda as written. Trustee Youngland seconded. We can vote. Agenda approved as written. Public comment. Next order of business is public comment on any item that is not an agenda item. If it's a quasi-judicial item, I'd ask that that be reserved for the appropriate public hearing. Does any member of the public request to speak on a non-agenda item? Thank you. And nobody's turned on the little green lighty thing in the center there at the bottom. Yeah,
Aha.
There you go.
Action. Here we go. Okay.
And I should point out name, address, and 3 minutes. Yes.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to try for 3. Really am. Belle Morris, 1431 South St. Vrain Avenue. So I am Belle Morris, the former chair of the Transportation Advisory Board. I served as vice chair for 6 years, supporting Chair Kimberly Campbell, and 5.5 years as chair with Tom Street, and later Kristen Eichern as vice chair. I was unanimously elected during each term and proudly shared leadership with each TAB member when we provided well-researched and thoroughly discussed recommendations to many Estes Park town boards. I did my homework, tracking community concerns, community desires for improving the transportation network and reducing congestion and emissions, as well as enhance the safety and quality of life for citizens, businesses, and visitors of Estes Park. Of course, I never did this alone. There was a team. In fact, often a high-functioning team of diverse views and life experiences. Not one or even 4 people could keep up with the various topics and projects always brewing at Public Works. I observed TAB members seek out their personal transportation interests and then shine. They showed up because they shared the passion of making helpful, effective change for our community. Some TAB's recommendations, plans, and projects were not always supported by concerned citizens and business owners. However, their concerns were always taken into consideration and often incorporated in TAB plan and project recommendations. And because of this, the responsible and respectful process of trying to get it right, the once controversial projects continue to grow in support. Think of the parking structure, the phased approach for paid parking, and even the downtown loop project has gained support. I say all of this because I continue to be disheartened that you, town board, still won't hold a rogue trustee liaison, Mark Eigel, accountable for his lack of objectivity and ethical behavior. You were lied to on March 11th when the liaison chose to use creative conspiracy theory disparaging TAB in his report rather than simply ask for a procedural correction. Oddly, Mayor, you did not challenge him or correct him. The liaison then wrote me directly using the same conspiracy, and I confronted him with a reply letter. He has sought revenge ever since. I know his intention as well as Mayor Hall. The three of us met about the confrontational tone of the letter, but oddly, not about the liaison's violation of trust and privilege. And I held my ground that the role of a liaison is to report accurately and in good faith. I was told by the liaison with a very aggressive tone that he will come after me and make it very public. The continued assumptions and spin made by the liaison and then reported to the town board do not align with the TAB's engagement or discussions. What I noticed is his own personal viewpoints that have carried throughout his experiences with TAB, as if he had a separate or disconnected agenda. He wouldn't listen or observe. I have a request. Out of concern for the remaining TAB members, that the liaison be replaced so they can feel free to speak openly at TAB meetings without fear of the current liaison. TAB members can trust reports from the liaison. Trustees, you can trust reports from the liaison regarding TAB's business. I feel good about my service to the community of Estes Park. I also am tired and feel liberated by not continuing to be on TAB. I was not going to speak tonight, but I watched the recent town board meeting and I knew I needed to speak on my behalf, especially after having witnessed the June 10th lies and character assassination attempts. My hands are clean. And I appreciate the years working alongside fellow citizens and Public Works. I have great respect for the Public Works staff and leadership, especially receiving public scrutiny. I will end by thanking you all for allowing me the opportunity to be a member of the Transportation Advisory Board. It has been deeply fulfilling and a true thrill to witness the needed improvements to our community's multimodal transportation needs. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Are there other public comments for items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move forward to town board comments and liaison reports. Trustee Eigel.
Thanks, Mayor. I have just one report from the Police Auxiliary. They've been very busy. If you were out for the 4th of July, you probably ran across one of them while you were waiting in traffic at the intersection. I think we set a record in a fire truck coming back from a call. It was 59 minutes from the roundabout at McGregor and Wonderview to the fire station, 59 minutes. So traffic was a bear, but it was one of the better shows that I have seen for fireworks. So thanks to the town for their participation. Thanks for the auxiliary for their support of our community. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Lancaster.
Just one thing to report. Last week, Trustee Hazelton and I did interviews for the Planning Commission, and we had 2 people interviewed, both very well qualified, and the recommendation will be coming forth to the board soon. And we're looking forward to having that board back up to full speed. That's it.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Sinek.
So first of all, I wanted to thank anybody who's involved in the 4th of July fireworks. It was a wonderful show this year. It really was. Probably one of the better I've seen in a lot of years. I think it was really, really great. The other thing is, it is rodeo week. So if you haven't noticed, we're all dressed up for our rodeo gear. Rodeo is still going on through Thursday. It is a fabulous rodeo. This year, we actually have more contestants than we've had in years past. We have, give or take, about 800 contestants signed up this year. And last year, we had about 540. It's a little bit different when you have pairs because like certain things are pairs, and so it's kind of hard to judge that in numbers. But so it's a lot more contestants this year. The rodeo has been sold out, not every night, but almost every night. There's still a few nights of it. And last night we had Paint Estes Pink, which is the fundraiser for the hospital. I do not know yet how much they raised totally in the end, and I do not know who was crowned Mrs. Rooftop, which I should, but I will have that information for you next meeting. But if you haven't been out to the rodeo, try to get your tickets and be out there because it really is a fantastic rodeo. We have If anybody follows rodeo, you'll know some of the biggest names in rodeo come to Rooftop. Just like if you thought about Michael Jordan in basketball, there are people here that come for the Rooftop Rodeo that are pros, and they are the #1 in the nation. So if you can get out there, it really is worth it. So that's it.
Thank you, Trustee Youngling.
Just one to report. Tomorrow we'll be meeting the sister cities. We'll be meeting tomorrow, but I just wanted to heads up, although these dates have changed 3 times.
Several.
But we're looking for, right now, 3 people from their delegation will be coming about August 17th to the 25th. And so we're keeping our fingers crossed. The visas have been an issue, them getting their visas. So hopefully it doesn't get pushed back again, because we're gonna, hopefully Mayor will be in town when they get here, and there'll be the official signing of the agreement between the two. So anyway, that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Trustee Hazelton.
Yeah, I went to rodeo on Saturday. That was my night to volunteer, and it was spectacular. I mean, Cindy, the rodeo director, and all the event staff and the volunteers, man, there's about a bajillion, that's an exact number of volunteers running around making that happen. People work really hard, so well done to all those folks. Marie and I attended the Visit Estes Park board meeting a couple weeks ago. Jamie Palmisano, who presented in front of this board from Brownfield, she was at that meeting as well, and there was some robust discussion about some of her points and ideas and comments, which I think was really appropriate for the Visit Estes Park board to hear that and kind of take that into consideration. Several of those board members had watched her presentation at the study session as well, so it was neat to see that connectivity. Couple of other operational kind of reports. The Visit Estes Park did receive a clean financial audit from Haney, the same audit company that the town uses. And so their finances look great for 2024. We also got an economic impact study report from Leon with Dean Runyon, talking a lot about, kind of all the data, not bajillion, but actual data of tourism impacts on our community in terms of average night stays, what people spend, how long they stay, the booking window, all that great stuff. So highly recommend watching that presentation if you'd like, or I'm happy to pass along the report. It was in the packet, but we've gotten the kind of full deck as well. Really great data in there that I know the staff will use in terms of making all their marketing decisions moving forward. And finally, for Visit Estes Park, I do anticipate that hopefully soon there will be a special board meeting where the board will discuss the outcome of the pending personnel investigation that's been going on. I've mentioned that a couple times here before, so I believe that's nearing completion, and I expect the board will be reviewing that, as well as discussing the next steps for the CEO search. Touched on that at the meeting, but we've got some work to do in deciding how to move forward for that permanent position. Restorative justice. Board meeting as well. A lot of the conversation that I'm going to focus on for this report is about the development code rewrite. Restorative Justice is working closely with the library and with Design Workshop and town staff on small group conversations and public engagement for the development code rewrite. And they've been doing a set of kind of small group meetings to start focusing on groups like homeowners, individuals with housing challenges. I think that one's on Thursday. Homeowners was today. Businesses, Spanish speakers, and others, sprinkled through the next coming weeks. So if you're interested in more information on that, please let me know. I'm happy to connect you with them. There will be many opportunities to engage throughout this process, but they are working very closely with all the players to kind of make sure that all different aspects of the community are engaged, not just folks who, may be paying attention or showing up to board meetings, but kind of pulling other people out from the woodwork and making sure they have an opportunity to speak their piece. So, and then finally, I just wanted to mention, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of other people feel similarly. Watching all of the coverage of the floods in Texas has been rather poignant and really striking. So I just want to encourage folks to support those communities wherever you can, whether that's financially and giving where you deem appropriate. TechSAR, their search and rescue, is a great organization. I have some friends who are engaged with that. Or, considering patronizing some of those local businesses in those areas, similar to how folks supported our community in 2013. I know there were a lot of online orders or people giving to different fundraisers. It just seems appropriate for us to support other communities when they're affected by natural disasters the way we know, unfortunately, well. And that's all I have tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Trustee Brown.
Sorry. I just have one update for the Economic Development and Workforce Council, which you'll hear the acronym EDWC, which it's hard to get used to that after EDC for so long. But there are a couple things they're working on. One, which is quite interesting, is they're working with Larimer County and their workforce development office on redefining the enterprise zone. Estes Park does have an enterprise zone. I have no idea where the boundaries of it are, but an enterprise zone does give you some advantages in various federal programs in various ways. So it's an important thing to have the enterprise zone properly defined and identified so that as opportunities arise, you can take advantage of them. And the other thing is that applications for the BASE program will open up August 1. For those of you who don't know, BASE is an acronym for Business Accelerator and something else. I don't think it's actually something else, but Business Accelerator. And it's an intensive program, goes over a number of months on business training. It's very good for both new businesses and also for mature businesses. I actually went through it this year. Very, very impressed with what they did. And it's an asset and a something that we can use in business anywhere. It's done off season, so you don't have to deal with the tourist season during the middle of it. Great program. I highly recommend it, and I hope some of you will sign up. It's free, and it's a great asset and very useful for any business in the community. And that is all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll forego any comments. We have another full agenda. However, Mayor Pro Tem Sinak might have an update on one item.
I do, and I just lost it. Oh, sorry, I did. I just lost it. The Paint Estes Pink, who creates money for the Hospital Foundation and for cancer research, has raised over $500,000 over the last few years. This year they had raised 100 and I just had it and I just lost it before I went to speak. 100 and I was going to say 7,000, 113,000 I think it was, and Mrs. Rooftop was Pam Leitner. So it's a lot of fun. They do Crowns for Cure, and it's just a great organization that raises a lot of money. That all that money stays local. So if you see her, please congratulate her on her title, and congratulations to Paint Estes Pink.
Thank you. Town Administrator Mahalik, you have a report.
Short one tonight, Mayor. I do have a lot of people to thank for our wonderful 4th of July parade. So I'm going to go through this with apologies to anybody that I may have missed. First and foremost, our events team has done a really good job at putting these together over the years, helped by a number of people, especially the police department, including our command staff, patrol staff, our community service officers, and dispatch, as well as our auxiliary volunteers. The fire district, of course, is an invaluable partner in the fireworks. They pose a fireworks. It's important to have the fire district whenever you're launching large explosive things into the air. They do a wonderful job. They're great partners. The Larimer County Sheriff's Office, the Recreation and Park District, the EMS and ambulance services, and our parking and transit team, including our seasonal parking ambassadors, all have played a role in helping make that event special and keep it safe and as freely flowing on the traffic side as can be imagined when you cram that many people into a downtown core. So a big thanks to all of those groups, and looking forward to another successful event next year.
Thank you. The consent agenda is short. 3 items on it. I'll read it in full. I don't know whether you see it on your screen. You don't, but it is in the packet. Item 1, expenditure approval lists, bills. Item 2, Town Board Meeting and Study Session Minutes dated June 24th, 2025. And item 3, Estes Park Planning Commission Minutes dated April 15th, 2025, and May 20th, 2025, acknowledgement only. Does any member of the public, including the trustees, request to have an item removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda the way you presented it.
I'll second.
Trustee Eigel moved to approve. Mayor Pro Tem Sinek seconded. We can vote on the consent agenda. Consent agenda approved. We'll move to our first report and discussion item, outside entities. And Director Victoria Ensley won the prize and got to be the first presentation tonight. That's always a good place to be. So it's all yours. Welcome.
Thank you, appreciate it. Let me see here. So I want to start by thanking you all, thank you Mayor and trustees for your support in the base funding program. It is an absolutely crucial part of our overall operations budget. We have done a lot of really awesome things this year. One of those is, if you notice, we have a little rebranding going on. So we have a bit of a new vision. Our mission as the Estes Arts District, the Estes Arts District is a nonprofit umbrella arts organization committed to the economic growth through arts and business partnership, forging a creative community of collaboration, creativity, education, inclusion, and strengthening the cultural vitality of the Estes Valley arts community. This is something that we really strive to do. We really pride ourselves as this umbrella organization that tries to bring all the other arts organizations together and work on collaboration and, you know, teaming up for all sorts of really exciting projects. That has been a huge part of what we've been doing this year. We did have some shifts to our board. As you know, Greg used to be the executive director. He and I kind of swapped out. I'm now the executive director, and this has given Greg an opportunity to work on creating a relationship with the peak-to-peak bypass that we have. And what he's doing is he's going to these meetings, creating a relationship so that Estes Park can be that northernmost point on that scenic tour. And so I believe it's Center City is the southernmost location on that. So
Which
he's been
town?
working. Center City, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we would be the northernmost point of that. This is all in line with our creating Estes as an arts tourist destination, which is really our goal, is creating that title for us and getting people aware that we're more than just the gateway to the Rocky Mountains, that we have so many amazing working artists in our community, absolutely phenomenal galleries, tons of nonprofits, great performing arts. But we have quite a diverse art scene. So really quickly, Greg Miles is our president, Lars Sage is our vice president, Steve Tice is our treasurer, I am the executive director, Amber Lausted is our digital marketing, and she's just our overall amazing team member. She handles all kinds of stuff. Tim Phillips is one of our board members. We have 2 new board members, Dana from Visit Estes and Valina Davis. We have done quite a few new projects and are kind of working on creating some for 2026. One of the big projects that we are working on is our World Record Community Chalk Art event. We are hoping to steal from Greeley the
a friendly steal, is steal the world record. So we have actually been in talks with the world record people and getting all of our bases in place so that we can go for it in 2026. That would be August of 2026. We're working with Visit Estes to coordinate a date, and it would be a 2-day event. One would be more of just a community festival, and the next day would be where we actually start the process. So it has to be done within 1 day, and we're really, really excited. We've got some great things lined up for that. That is one of the projects that we are working on for next year. We have several public art projects that we're working on. We were super thrilled to put out some, we submitted for a lot of grants, and we did receive grants back. Village Thrift was one of those, and they are supporting our mural project. We will be starting those very shortly. We've identified several locations throughout town, and we're really excited. We have some youth artists that are also going to be participating, so very excited about those. We do quite a few events. Friends of Folk is one of our key events. We just had that recently. It was an absolutely amazing turnout. I think it was one of the biggest turnouts that we've ever had, and it was our 10th anniversary for that event. And had awesome support. Thank you for those of you at the town who really helped us pull it all together and supported us. First Friday Art Groove is another one of our programs that's really awesome. If you don't know about it, First Friday Art Groove, a lot of participating galleries and businesses feature local artists. We have live music, refreshments. It's just a really fun way to kind of jump from business to business and check out what we have to offer. The community art mural project, which I mentioned, and then we are again doing our community art festival. We will be hosting a small version of that and an introduction to the chalk art event August 16th of this year. So we'll pass along more information as we get closer to that. We're also developing some youth programming, looking at doing some workshops, as well as helping some of our arts partners in educating them on how to market themselves better, social media promotion, things like that. Just kind of giving them some tutorials and also information on what grants are available to arts organizations or artists. We sponsor quite a few events. I won't read through all of those. I believe you have those in your packet. One of our biggest things that we did this year was apply for CCI designation. This is a huge opportunity for us to become that cultural and arts destination and district. So we outlined a district. We have a map. We submitted on May, I believe it was May 15th was the submission date, and we should hear August, mid to late August, whether or not we get that designation, but we are fingers crossed, hoping. We appreciate all of the letters of support and all of the town support for this application. It's been a lot of hard work. It started with the Arts Master Plan, really developing that and the town's support on that.
Do you know how many other towns applied this year?
From what I gathered, there was something like 7 to 10 that did submit. So I'm not sure exactly, but it seemed like a few, because we actually, as a board, we did attend the Colorado Creative Industry Summit, and we got to meet and speak with some of those other communities. It also gave us a lot of really great ideas for how we can continue to grow the arts in our community, and everybody was really fantastic about sharing information. So we learned a ton, and actually the majority of our board attended that. We also got some FaceTime in with those who will be selecting for the creative
Do
district.
they have a limit, how many they choose each year?
They did say that there is a limit, but they have not released what that number is. So I'm not quite sure what that is. I believe they'll probably select 3 new districts this year.
Do I need to write to anybody?
Hey, go for it. They've been very supportive. I think we've been on their radar. We have
Yeah.
been in constant communication with them, and as soon as they opened it back up, this is the year that they opened it back up for applications. They had put a pause on it because of funding. But they opened it back up this year, and we were already in communication with them for the last 2 years, just letting them know that we were interested in as soon as this application was available, that we were ready to jump on board. We've been doing a lot of research, a lot of hard work has gone into this, and so we're really excited and very hopeful. We've also developed a new membership program that we will be launching in September. This is a great way to, again, work with these local arts organizations and individual artists and creatives to kind of network with them, give them some tips and trainings and some other, just collaborative opportunities. And I just want to thank you all again for your support. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Other questions or comments, folks? Having none, I'll just speak for all of us. Thanks for continuing to keep the arts vibrant and alive in Estes Park. I do feel the town has a very good vein of arts going on, and it's a wonderful thing. We get the beauty in so many different ways. So thanks for that, and good luck with the CAD designation.
Thank you, appreciate it. And thank you for your continued support of the arts. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
We have a liquor item today. It's Resolution 6925, transfer of ownership from JWC Stanley Holding LLC DBA The Stanley Hotel to Stanley Partnership for Art, Culture, and Education LLC DBA The Stanley Hotel, 333 Wonderview Avenue, hotel and restaurant liquor license. I think this is related to the sale of the Stanley to SECFA. Okay, I'll do this all officially. The next order of business is convening the Liquor License Authority for the Town of Estes Park, a public hearing on the application to do the transfer that I just named. Town Clerk, you are presenting the application, that Town Clerk, and for this transfer. And you'll be confirming the various checklist items that we need confirmed.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I decided to change positions today and stand at the podium for you with all these presentations today. So thank you for Deputy Town Clerk Beers for stepping in and taking minutes tonight. So this application has been kind of long in the works, as you had alluded, Mayor. This sale of the Stanley has been ongoing for quite some time. They finally closed on that, and we got a final application in our office on May 15th of this year. We did receive, previous to that, all the necessary fees and paperwork, and those were all reviewed and found complete. The applicant, as you stated, is filing as an LLC. And because this is a new type of entity for all of us at the state level, there is no police report, as there's really no individuals owning this separately. So there is no police report in your packet tonight. However, the main individual that is still on the liquor license, Mr. Collin, did complete a background check for this, and everything was fine. And as this has been licensed for some time, the TIPS training has been completed previously, and so there was no need to update any of that. With that, I would take any questions you have, and also the applicant's representation is here present to answer any questions for you.
Town Attorney, I believe on this particular procedure, there's no public comment on this. It's not listed on my list. Is there supposed to be opportunity for public comment?
Mayor, I would actually defer to Town Clerk Williams.
Yes, this is a quasi judicial item that you need to go ahead and accept public comment
okay.
on.
Yeah, the different script didn't have that. But noting that, does anyone may have the opportunity to provide public comment on this item in the public hearing, and it'll be the same general rules we follow: name, address, and limited time. No comments out there. Board of Trustees, are there any questions or comments related to this application? He might be queuing up for a different action, is that correct?
No, I'm waiting for
Oh,
your
Trustee
acknowledgement,
Igoe,
Mayor.
there you go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Town clerk, this is a different entity and it's a little bit different process for us. Generally, we do have someone who's accountable, a point person, a contact person, someone who will take responsibility, pride, and ownership of the responsibilities with a liquor license.
That-
What's going to happen with that, with this entity?
Correct, that is Mr. Collin. He is the individual that is listed on the license as being the contact person for this license, and he's the only person currently listed.
Okay, I just want to make that clear.
And the
in our
applicant's
review.
representation's here if we have specific questions on that organizational structure.
I believe he actually, it's a 7-year term that he continues to oversee, but other questions from trustees? All the information that we've heard in this public hearing will be considered. I declare this public hearing closed. I would take a motion on this transfer.
I move to approve Resolution 69-25 for the transfer of hotel and restaurant liquor license filed by Stanley Partnership for Art, Culture, and Education LLC, DBA The Stanley Hotel.
Second.
Trustee Hazelton moved to approve. Trustee Youngland seconded. Any further comments from the board? We'll vote. This transfer has been approved unanimously by the board. I declare the liquor licensing authority for the town of Estes Park is adjourned, and I now reconvene to the regular town board meeting. And you have a comment?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, Jackie's right. This has been a challenge getting this done. It is a different type of entity. My name's Dan Carr with the law firm of Dill, Carr, Stonebraker, and Hutchings, 455 Sherman, Denver. We appreciate your efforts. We really appreciate Jackie's efforts and Bunny's efforts, because bringing something brand new to the mix is always a challenge and a little bit difficult. So thanks for your help.
Thanks very much. Looking forward to the new shape of it up there. The next, now we're into our other action items, and this is the initiated ordinance petition to amend the Estes Park Development Code regarding rezonings and planned unit development applications. And let me go ahead and get things going on the public hearing. I've already stated the next order of business. At this hearing, the Board of Trustees shall consider the information presented during the public hearing from the town staff, public comment, and written comments received on the item, and I think we even received one here at the start of the meeting, too. Any member of the board may ask questions at any stage of the public hearing, which may be responded to at that time. The public hearing is now open. A staff report by Town Clerk Jackie Williamson.
Thank you, Mayor. So, as you stated, this is a citizen-initiated ordinance that I bring forward to you tonight. Say all of the words, Jackie. Just to kind of briefly give everyone a history of this initiated ordinance. It was found, the form of the petition was found complete, and the letter sent to the applicants, James and Christine Poppets, on November 18th, 2024. That allowed them to then go ahead and start circulating that petition for signatures. They did so, and they had 180 days in which to get those petitions circulated and submitted to our office. We did receive it on May 16th, 2025. one day prior to the 6 months being expired. So just wanted to make sure that you understood the timeline. This has been out there for a little while, and we've been working on it for a while. They submitted this particular petition packets. 43 of them were signed and submitted. They contain 405 signatures. I completed the certification of 261 signatures, which met the required amount of 246, or exceeded, I should say, the number of 246. So in front of you today is the petition for your consideration. Per state statute 3111-1041, I had 20 days to bring that forward to you after the final determination. That determination was found final after the 40-day protest period, which was June 25th. So in front of you today is that ordinance. You have two options. You can either approve that ordinance outright, and you cannot make any amendments to the language. It has to be the language that's in front of you in that ordinance, or you can set it for an election. That election has to be set no less than 60 days from final determination, or no more than 150. So I wanted to just show you all what that looked like so that you had all the information as you are making this determination. So I have a calendar that I have supplied to you, and I also want to show so that the public can see it. So this calendar shows you the potential dates and those dates that actually are not available to you all. As a reminder, if you were to set this for an election, it has to be on a Tuesday. 60 days from sufficiency there was the August 24th. And then the 150 days from sufficiency is that November 22nd date. The dates in red are to let you know that you cannot set an election 32 days prior to a general election or after a general election. So all of those days where there's the red arrows, those are days that are not available to you all to set an election. As a reminder, we typically like to do mail ballot elections here at the town of Estes Park. And really, in order to do any election, the town clerk's office would request 90 days to do that. 90 days from today is October 6th. As you can see, that is 1 day prior to the, or 2 days prior to the 32 days before the November 4th election would not be available day for us to hold an election. We could not hold an election on that Tuesday, the 7th. So those are just some of the dates that you can look there and see. So what we, the town clerk's office, would recommend to you if you were going to set this for an election would be to coordinate with Larimer County and hold that election on November 4th. I also put, I think in this memo for you, an understanding that we contacted Larimer County simply to find out what it would take to coordinate and what the cost might be. Those were our only actions at that time in making that contact with Larimer County. It ranges from about $5,500 all the way up to $22,000 is what they've given me an estimate. It really is dependent on whether or not the state and the county have election items on the ballot. If they do, it's that lower cost. If they choose not to bring a question forward, it's that higher cost. Again, as a reminder to everybody, our elections, when we run them, range about in the price range of about $35,000, and that does not include staff time. So it's a considerable amount of staff time when we're running an election as well. Any questions I can answer at this point?
Trustee Eigel.
Jackie, so you asked the county what it would, you got a cost estimate. Did you make any commitment to them that we were going to have an election?
I made no commitment to them. Simply
Okay.
asked them what it would take to coordinate if the board elected to do so.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions at this point?
Yeah, if we were to defer action on this item until a meeting in August. Would these election dates still be available that you identified, or has that changed?
I would probably turn this over to Attorney Kramer, but I have 20 days to bring this forward to you
Yeah, I
per
know.
state statute, and so I'm not sure you have the ability to defer this to August.
So, Trustee Brown, that was an if-then question, as I understand it. So taking the if at face value and moving to the then part of the question, as I understand it, the dates and deadlines are based on the final determination of petition sufficiency, which is the same regardless of
Either way.
when you act on it.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to open this up for public comment. Any person will be given the opportunity to address the board concerning this item. Must state name and address for the record. And do we have anyone wishing to make public comment? We've received a good deal of written comment. I think we're all up to date on that. Oh, we do have a speaker. Yes, come forth.
Do I turn this on?
No, it's on.
Okay, thank you. I'm Becky Robbins, 1470 Prospect Mountain Drive. Thank you for Mayor and trustees for allowing me to speak. I sent you a note, which you may or may not have been able to read, but I wanted to put this out in the public. So I've been wondering if this ordinance is passed, or this amendment is passed to the Development Code, if it would violate the Fair Housing Act. I did a little research on my own, which I'm not a lawyer. I'm on the board of directors for the realtors, though, and I have a real interest in zoning and property rights here. And I found that courts have found violations of similar situations where local governments have blocked affordable multifamily housing due to the pressure from neighbors. Further, I found that intent to discriminate does not have to be proven. It depends on the outcome of the ordinance that harms a protected class, which this, I think, could do. So I'd like for someone who has a legal background and the wherewithal to look into this, to look into it, see if there is any violation of fair housing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to look at the town attorney. My understanding is that because this is a legally presented and sufficient petition for a ballot initiative, we, the town, at this point, under current law, only have two choices. We can either approve it and move it into an ordinance, or we can set an election date with it.
Correct, Mayor. That's been the longstanding law, the statute, and it's Section 31-11-104 of the Colorado Revised Statutes gives you only those two options.
And with those two options, if there are legal questions related to the nature of the ballot issue, those would have to arise after it was made into ordinance, either by the town board or by the general population in the election. And at that point, legal challenges could be made accordingly.
That's right, Mayor, and that's been the traditional position of the judiciary, is that they wait and see if something actually is adopted before giving an opinion as to whether or not it's lawful.
Right, thanks. Are there other public comments on this item? Yes.
Mayor and trustees, thank you for the time. Not a big public speaker, but I wanted to say that I sent you all a letter stating that.
Sir, do you mind giving your name and address for the record? Thank
Sorry,
you.
yeah, my name's Jeff Robbins,
Thanks,
and I
buddy.
live at 1470 Prospect Mountain Drive. So, my letter to you, which I also submitted to the local media, I just have a concern that the ballot initiatives, maybe, certainly the first one, giving neighbors the power to, turn down a zoning, an attempt at a rezoning was possibly unconstitutional. and I cited the Article 1, Paragraph 1 of the Constitution and the 14th Amendment. And then there was a letter or even more coming back saying that, the Article 1 has nothing to do with this initiative, and really nothing could be farther from the truth. This issue is, well, first of all, what the Constitution says is that the power is invested in Congress. Well, the way our government works, the Supreme Court has then interpreted that and given that power to local governments as well. And this issue it's rooted in a long-standing constitutional principle known as the non-delegation doctrine, which came about through the Supreme Court's action on several cases regarding something just like this. One was called Eubank versus the City of Richmond. Another one was called Washington Seattle Trust versus Roberge. Both of these are over 100 years old, but it's established this principle called the delegation doctrine. So, in closing, I think that these ballot initiatives are ill-conceived, and I urge you to not make them part of the code, but use your second option, which is to send it to the voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment on this item? Yes, sir.
I'm Terry Rustin, 555B Devon Drive in Estes Park. Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tempore, trustees, you have before you a citizen initiative which seeks to give you and me and our neighbors a voice in how properties in our neighborhoods are developed. Opponents of this measure want to be able to buy a piece of property, declare that conditions have changed, and have it rezoned to build whatever they like. The project they have planned might obstruct the view of the neighbors. It might lower the property values. It might increase stormwater runoff downhill. But since they don't live there, their own view is unobstructed. The value of their property is increased, and the stormwater damage is down the street. Those opposing this initiative have cast its hundreds of proponents as not in my backyard, self-indulgent, pompous people who want to send Estes Park back a century. They have asserted that this initiative violates Article 1 and Amendment 14 of the U.S. Constitution. But they know that Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution is all about the U.S. Congress in Washington and has nothing at all to do with property zoning in Estes Park. They know that the 14th Amendment is about birthright citizenship and has nothing to do with property zoning in Estes Park. 2 weeks ago, during debate about rezoning, one of the trustees said, and I quote, "I'm a little bit concerned that maybe that part of the American dream isn't alive anymore." Another trustee said, "If we don't provide more housing for our workers here, our community doesn't thrive." What's happening here? This is known as a straw man argument. In a straw man argument, you intentionally exaggerate some aspect of your opponent or your opponent's argument and attack the exaggeration rather than what the opponent actually said or believes. Socrates taught students to ask questions. The authorities accused him of corrupting youth. Martin Luther King Jr. wanted a just society for all Americans. He was accused of sedition and fomenting revolt. Mayor and trustees, I urge you to be aware of a straw man attack. I urge you to see past the straw man and recognize the truth. This initiative will not destroy the American dream or end life as we know it in Estes Park. What it will do is honor the wishes, the thoughts, the feelings, and the voices of the residents of Estes Park in determining what gets built in their neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other public comments on this topic?
Hello, Christine Poppett, 650 Devon Drive. I just want to thank all of you for hearing these two initiatives in front of you. I want to publicly thank all of the registered voters who have supported and signed the petition packets to make the packets sufficient. I'd also like to put out there, there's obviously information coming from both sides, which is good. It's a democracy. However, there may be misinformation, and I just ask the voters when this goes to election, which is, I believe, what you might decide this evening, that they stay educated. If they have questions, visit preserveestespark.org. We're happy to answer any questions, and also for any of you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? Yes. You'll want to pull that mic down a little bit there.
Christine is tall, yes. My name is Laura Rustin, 555B Devon Drive. I am the person that was referred to as the one who rebutted the comment about Article 1, Section 1 of the Constitution, and I believe I sent all of you my rebuttal. I want to make clear exactly what Article 1, Section 1 of the Constitution says in its entirety, and what it says is all legalities, I'm sorry, it's so small, all legislative powers defined by the Constitution are given to the Senate and the House of Representatives. It's one sentence long, that's all that it says. It says nothing about the references, the attempt to connect these initiatives to Article 1, Section 1. It does not refer to that at all. I'm really sorry I can't read it. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. That is the sum total of Article 1, Section 1 of the Constitution. It has no relevance to local initiatives. It's part of a smokescreen. I refer to my husband's comments about straw men. None of these objections that are being raised really have anything to do with the content of the initiatives. They're just trying, in my opinion, and the opinion of many other people, to scare the population of Estes Park into thinking that this is somehow or other seditious or dangerous. It is neither. It is an attempt by the population, following all the legal channels to get this initiative created, to express their opinion about something. That's all that it is. One of the other letters that they submitted to you talks about the potential for that the town would have to defend against expensive lawsuits. My question for the people who have raised that is, are they planning, if this initiative is passed, to file those lawsuits? No one else is talking about lawsuits. This is just a whole bunch of smokescreen, misinformation, and mostly scare tactics. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? We have a couple coming down at the same time. Will Mr. Moulton? Yep.
Good evening, Mayor and Trustees. Scott Moulton, 207 Evergreen Lane. I am here. I also serve as the Executive Director of the Estes Park Housing Authority. Tonight, I urge you to push these to a public vote. A couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago, our local voter base passed a significant funding bill by 63%. That was a mandate vote that this community needs housing solutions. Both of these initiated ordinances run the risk of significantly increasing the cost to develop or the possibility to develop housing at all. And I am fearful of the actual real impact it will have on our ability, that is the Housing Authority, to deliver housing solutions that this community needs. So I urge you to put this to a public vote and to not adopt them tonight as they are written. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm John Guffey. I live at 561 Chapin Lane, and I have a neighbor, no longer lives there, next door to me, who chose to cut down all the trees in his backyard, pursue a permit to build a garage, didn't build the garage, has sold the property. The issue being, had I had a voice and been considered in my perspective, looking directly onto this property that was denuded of vegetation, stripped below grade to create a space to build a garage that never got built. The house has been sold. The new owner and I met. We'd had a nice conversation, and we intend to do some things together to enhance our vision on that property. My concern is people need a voice, and the decision to develop that word to me is inappropriate. We have a planning commission that is considered to be a development commission. I think that's inappropriate. I think the people who live in the neighborhood should be considered and given prerogative in looking at what they see and considering their position to be considered and to be a point of concern. So however you choose to decide this issue, putting it to a vote could be a good way. Making the decision yourself could also be a good way. And I encourage you to think about what our community is made of. You know, it is decisions, and people need to be able to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments on this topic?
Frank Tice, 685 Peakview Drive. On the first initiative, which I think is what you're taking comment on now, it doesn't matter under state law whether it's legal or not. I mean, you only have two choices. I urge you to put it on the ballot because it has serious effect on property rights. And I think that ought to be put up to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? Town clerk, or Bunny, please, from the town clerk's office. Any communications have been received in regard to the item that are not in the board packet?
Nothing aside from the item that was placed at the dais this evening.
Board of Trustees, further questions or comments on this? And you'll have an option on that when we close the public hearing too, but, Trustee Brown? No. Okay. All reports, statements, exhibits, written communications presented will be accepted as part of the record. This public hearing is closed. We can now take a motion, but if you have, I can take a motion and then we can have commentary or questions afterwards. Yes.
I would like to have a conversation, but I'd like to make a motion before that so we can move on. I would move to approve Resolution 7125 referring Initiative Ordinance 1225 to the coordinated general election on November 4th, 2025.
Mayor, before there's a second on that one, Trustee Eigel, is it possible that you're reading the motion for the next item?
Will you turn off your?
Apparently, the details of the attorney have caught up with me.
I think he can retract that.
So
just
my
because-
motion actually should have said that I would move to approve Resolution 7025, referring this initiated ordinance 1125 to the coordinated general election on November 4th of this year. Thank you.
Satisfied. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Trustee Eigel moved to approve this for scheduling, coordinated scheduling with Larimer County on the November regular election. Mayor Pro Tem Sinak seconded that. Additional comments and questions?
Well, I'm going to have a substitute motion. I should have spoke before the public hearing was closed, perhaps, about this. My substitute motion is to defer any action on this ordinance until the August 12th meeting. And and I'll explain the reason for that. I believe, and I'll explain why, that this particular proposed ordinance would be declared unconstitutional by a court based on, interestingly, a case brought to my attention by one of the teachers at the school. And it's a case back in 1928 that almost on nearly identical facts determined that such an ordinance was unconstitutional, a violation of the 14th Amendment and due process. And I'll talk more about that as I get to it. But the reason for the deferral is that historically, a ordinance could not be challenged before it was enacted. A citizen-initiated ordinance could not be challenged before it's enacted. But the Colorado legislature this session essentially overrode the position of the Supreme Court on that and said that certain ordinances may be challenged before enactment rather than having to wait to see if it's enacted. And because of that, that law does not become effective until August 6th, but it will become effective on that date. And so I would like us to have the opportunity to decide whether we, and I'm not saying we will, but to decide whether we want to make a pre-election challenge to this proposed ordinance or not, or decide instead to either adopt it or put it on for a vote. And my understanding from talking to the town clerk that still would enable us, if we chose, to put the ballot measure on the election for the November 4th general election.
I did not believe that deferral is one of the options available to us. I think there is a window in which we must act on the two options.
Well, my understanding is that there is no specific time frame, but maybe I'm mistaken on that. But clearly, the problem is that this new law requires you, if you're going to bring a pre-election challenge to it, that it be done prior to being put on the ballot. So if we decide today to put it on the ballot, we cannot challenge it pre-election. We could only challenge it post-election. Now, I'm not even sure I want to necessarily take a pre-election challenge. I just want to have the option of discussing that and making that determination, which if we put it on the ballot, decide to put it on the ballot now, we will not have that option.
What is the window in which we must act on the two options available for us now? I thought it was a 20-day cycle.
No.
So, Mayor, what's in Section 3111-104, the language that's currently there? It says, the proposed ordinance may be adopted without alteration by the legislative body within 20 days following the final determination of petition sufficiency. If the proposed ordinance is not adopted by the legislative body shall forthwith publish the proposed ordinance as other ordinances are published and shall refer the proposed ordinance in the form petitioned for to the registered electors.
Forthwith.
Forthwith is not a defined term of any particular number of days. And all I'm asking for is to defer it 1 month, which would allow us to still put it on the ballot at the November 4th election or adopt it on August 12th.
Well, let's have a discussion with the trustees a little bit on that before we have substitute motions on the table.
Well, can I speak a little bit more to why I believe this is unconstitutional? Because I think this one is pretty darn clear. This case in 1928 is Washington XRL Seattle Trust Company, Title Trust Company versus Roberge. And in that case, there was a Washington municipal ordinance that denied permitting for a building when the written consent shall have been, only when the written consent shall be obtained by the owner of 2/3 of the property within 400 feet of the proposed building. And the court determined that that was unconstitutional and a violation of the 14th Amendment. It may indeed be a violation of the non-delegation doctrine, but this one is right on point. The facts are almost the same. It's 400 feet. It involved one particular type of building, and it was determined to be unconstitutional as a violation of the 14th Amendment. And in that, they said, and keep in mind, as we're determining this, we have 3 different interest groups at issue that we have to balance those rights. One is the property owner who wishes to develop, one is their neighbors, and one is the community at large. All of those interests are important to consider and balance. And this particular one weights the balance entirely in favor of the neighbors and takes away the authority of elected officials to make that determination, and also takes away the ability of other property owners to weigh in on it, because unless you get the consent in advance, you can't even proceed with the thing. And it seems abundantly clear to me that this case would control, and it would be controlling authority if we went to court with this. And rather than putting the community through all this, I think we may well determine, it's going to be a determination by this board, that we want a court determination one way or the other on this before we proceed.
It's not for the board tonight to determine constitutionality or legality of this item.
Absolutely not. I agree with you. It's my opinion that that's how a court would rule. Court rules however they rule, okay? I get that. It's not about that. It's about having the opportunity to make the decision as to whether we make a pre-election challenge to this. Now, in many ways, I'd rather this go to the voters because I think the voters will reject it myself. But on the other hand, the board should have the opportunity, should they decide to do so, to decide whether or not to challenge this pre-election. And I think that still falls, a deferral of this action till August, still falls within the idea of put it on the ballot forthwith, if that's the decision.
In my opinion, we should vote on the motion at the dais that we do have a legal motion made and seconded. If that fails, we can consider alternate motions, or if you choose to make a secondary motion, we can vote on that first. So if you want to make a alternate motion, let's do it. Let's move to it so that we can conclude our business.
Okay.
You did not make a motion.
I don't know if I'll get a second on it, but I move to defer action on this item until the August 12th meeting of the town board.
And it's legal to do so, that is not an illegal motion?
So, Mayor, a motion can be made and seconded. The board can also ask my opinion on it. Before I dive into that, I'd want to look to the full board and ask whether the board is comfortable with me opining on that in answer to the question, because it is a waiver of attorney-client confidentiality and privilege for that limited purpose.
Mayor, we have a motion on the table for matter of discussion. I'll second it, so we can
All
discuss
right,
it.
we have a motion from Trustee Brown to defer action on this item to August 12th. We have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Sinek. Is there further discussion on this item?
Yeah.
On this motion?
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. And maybe, I don't know if the clerk or attorney can help with the timelines. I understand it might work with the timeline. We do it if we did it on the 8th, or whatever, it was the 13th? 12th. Whatever, sometime in August. If we made that decision, but all we would do is challenge it. Now, challenge it is gonna take a while. To go to the courts and have it reviewed, and, I mean, how does this all work with the challenging it? This is a new law, so we're kind of new ground here. How does that work with the deadlines that we have to put it on the ballot within a certain amount of time, right? I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out how this all balances out.
Yeah, I just wanted to give the board a couple more pieces of data so that when you're making your decision. Per the election calendar, the state, Colorado Secretary of State, their calendar, we have to give notice to the county 100 days prior to the election, which I believe was the 25th of July. I had my handy dandy helpers over here looking it up for us. And then we have to sign an IGA no later than August, I believe it was 26th. So those are kind of some key dates that we need, and otherwise we miss that opportunity to be on the November 4th, and as you look, there are no other days available to schedule this election. So I just wanted to make sure that you all are understanding the other dates that are associated with coordinating it. So thank you, Trustee Lancaster.
Meaning that we would have to schedule a special election?
We would have to try to figure out how to do one in 30 days, which I don't think we have the ability to even get equipment here.
Right.
So we would be
Right.
trying to figure out a way to maybe hand count. But yeah, we've never run an election in 30 days.
So if we
I think
notify
we're
the
running-
county,
Yeah, we're running into real time constraints with it if we make that postponement. But
If you postpone it,
Trustee
yes.
Brown,
but
continue.
if we notify the county, so you say the July 25th date, we have to notify the county of a desire to join the election.
It gives them the ability to then put a IGA together and get that to us so that you all can take action on it.
But you're really not effective on that until that IGA is enacted, correct?
Correct, but we do have to give them notification.
Okay, so we could give them notification on that date if the desire of the town board may be to not adopt the ordinance at least. And we could notify them on that date, but not necessarily be bound to that action until we sign the IGA.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'm very uncomfortable. Please, not at this time. We've completed. I can get a point of order from the trustees. I don't believe I can get a point of order from the community. I'm uncomfortable with a delay in taking action. I would rather follow this by the book. However, we have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any further comment, or can we vote on the substitute motion?
Yeah, I'll go less than a minute. I think that the strategy of figuring out whether this is legal or not is, for me, what is the most cost-effective for the town. If there's any question at all about, is this legal or not, since we have to use the language that was presented, we don't have the chance to modify it, make it sound good, or make it work within the law. I think that there is a question of the legality of the ordinance. I feel like it will be more expensive to do that investigation and figure it out if we determine after a delay that this may not be legal versus letting it go to the voters and seeing how it falls out with the community. And if it is challenged, I think the town has some options that may be less expensive than proactively investigating the whether this is legal or not. So I'm not going to support the substitute motion because I think that we put it to the voters and go that way. So
Trustee Youngland.
A question for Attorney Dan. So if we were to postpone it, can you explain the process of the length of time it will take approximately for us to hear back and how that process would work? I mean, it has to be heard.
Trustee Youngland, I'm just thinking through the best way to try to answer that question. And it's partly because if I'm really going to dive into it, then I would look back to the full board to see if we want to waive privilege to discuss that.
Okay.
The new law contemplates the municipality at issue bringing it to a court, and there is no way to tell how long it would take a court to rule on it. But the timeframes for setting the election would be paused until the court gives us that, or the court system gives us that final answer.
Okay, thanks.
And then you'd have the same calendar considerations.
I assume that would that go to district court, and then there's always chances of appeal, but would it be the district court where we would file at this point?
Trustee Lancaster, I am just double checking here. I'm actually not seeing that, but I believe it would be the district court, yes.
At this point, I'd like to move to a vote on the substitute motion. The substitute motion fails 5-2. We now can revert to the original motion, which is still on the table. I read the trustees and individuals who motioned and seconded, and that was to approve for scheduling with Larimer County at the November election, taking this ordinance petition to the vote of the people.
Did we have a second?
We did have a second. I thought you seconded.
No, I seconded Bill's,
Oh, okay.
but I'll second that
Oh,
one if not.
Was that you? Who was-
Okay.
I'm sure I had a second.
I didn't second
The
it.
town clerk, who seconded the first motion?
So the original motion was moved and seconded, Eigel, Senek, to approve resolution 7025.
I told you. At this point, we can take a vote on the original motion. Passes 6-1, or actually an abstention there. So at this point, Town Clerk, we can move forward with Larimer County on scheduling it for the November election.
Thank you, Mayor. Should we move on to the second one?
Yes.
I'm not seconding anything.
You already did?
It must be
Your
the-
prerogative, Mayor Pro Tem
Must
Zenak.
be the cheesecake. The next order of business is public hearing on action item 2, initiated ordinance petition to repeal section 11.4 and associated building height limits in section 4.3 of the Estes Park Development Code, ordinance 1225. At this hearing, the board shall consider the information presented during the public hearing from the town staff, public comment, and written comments received on the item. Any member of the board may ask questions at any stage of the public hearing. And this public hearing is open. Town Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. This has the exact same dates that we went through before, so I won't belabor that issue, but and the same number of signatures needed, 246. I'll just note again that preliminary statement of sufficiency was provided on June 13th. 393 signatures were submitted on 43 petitions. I was able to verify 281. Again, we needed 246. And again, we are presenting both the initiated ordinance, which would have to be adopted as written, for you to approve tonight or set this for an election. Again, we would be looking to set it for the same election, that general election on November 4th. Happy to answer any questions.
Any person will be giving the opportunity to address the board concerning the item, and I'll go to public comment first before we do questions and answers from the board. Does anyone from the public wish to make a comment on this initiated ordinance petition?
Maybe I'm the only one. I wrote you a letter, Frank Tice, 685 Peakview. I am opposed to this ordinance. I think you should, I'm opposed to it going to the voters. I think you should adopt it. And the reason is, I think that it's been proven that there are certain flaws in the current density bonus ordinance we have, and there's some level of dissatisfaction in the community. I personally don't like anything that adds to the building heights in town. I believe the pressure to increase building heights will not go away, and we ought to draw a line in the sand and say, no, that's just my opinion. But I think this one would be good to go away and be reworked if you want to. We're going to rework the development code anyway. So, and there's nothing pending I'm aware of that's using the density bonus that hasn't already been submitted, and it won't be affected. Thank you.
Thanks. Other public comment on this item?
Christine Poppett, 650 Devon Drive. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I agree with Frank Tice. This is public. This is public. Thank you.
We have it on tape. Other public comment?
Thank you. There's a doctor here.
Yes. I'm Laura Rustin, 555B Devon Drive. I want to just speak to you, the trustees, unrelated actually to the initiative. My late brother was an international Talmudic scholar of many years' repute, and this evening's discussion of the legalities and the wording and all of that has just shown me how seriously you take this and how you try to understand what you're doing and do the right thing. And I might not always agree with you, but I do appreciate the effort that you make. Thank you all.
Thank you. Other public comment on this item?
I feel like kumbaya. Scott Moulton, 207 Evergreen Lane. I serve as the Executive Director of the Estes Park Housing Authority. Just as the last ordinance, I urge you to push this to a public vote. This proposed ordinance getting rid of the bonus density would have a severe impact on our ability to deliver affordable and attainable housing solutions for our community. Both the bonus density and the height bonus can be used strategically to bring the cost of development down to deliver the housing that this community needs. It has been done in the past. Peakview, our EPHA's development, is an example of how both the bonus density and the height density can be used to deliver housing effectively. So I urge you to push this to a public vote and to not adopt this as it's written. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? We have another.
John Guffey, 561 Chapin Lane. And today I attended a meeting at the museum regarding community input about the new development code. And one of the issues that I spoke to was how this community needs to see that planning is more important than development. And there isn't enough planning to accommodate the development desire that is forthcoming. And I think that putting limits on height is a huge dilemma that we can resolve by passing this ordinance. And if the town can understand its place in the valley and its place in relationship to the Continental Divide, to the National Park, to the millions of people that come here, for really one thing, to restore their understanding and relationship with the natural ecosystem that we live in. We have that honor, we have that privilege. And I would really encourage you to resist the desire to overdevelop, building taller, building more dense. One consideration I gave at this meeting was we have many houses that are inappropriately occupied in order, like a single person. My own residence has room for another person or a family. And if the town would be willing to embrace the idea that we as a community can address our needs for housing constructively by working together, perhaps having a town system of examining people who need housing, helping connect them with people who have housing. You know, why build more houses? Why build taller buildings? Why intensify our presence in this valley? If we could do it in a more loving and considerate and community-oriented fashion that would involve people saying, oh, I have room. Hey, we can make sure the people we put into your house are vetted and are appropriately positioned. Another thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment on this item? Town clerk, have any communications been received in regard to the item which are not in the board packet? Or
No
town
further
clerk
comments,
staff?
Mayor.
I keep promoting you to town clerk, so. Board of Trustees, we will have, once we have a motion on the table, opportunity for additional discussion, but are there questions regarding this item in the public hearing? All reports, statements, exhibits, and written communications presented will be accepted as part of the record. This public hearing is closed. I will take a motion.
I have a feeling I know the result of this, but I will move to defer action on this until August 12th.
Do we have a second on this motion? I do not see a second. I think the motion fails. Do I have another motion?
I move to approve Resolution 7125, referring initiated ordinance 1225 to the coordinated general election on November 4th, 2025.
I'll second. And I have a comment, if we're good with that.
Yeah, Trustee Lancaster moved to approve this and schedule it with the November election. Trustee Hazelton seconded that. Comments?
Just briefly, only because I had my mic on before we voted the last time, but we were cruising, so I make the same comment now. I actually think, in response to Bill's comments about the balance of the three interest groups, I actually think there's four. And one of them, I think, has to do with the protection of the town, too. I think we have a moral and legal responsibility, well, in the municipality, too, to make sure that we aren't, we can't pass things up here that are going to, get us into trouble with lawsuits and expensive things. Like, we have to be really cognizant of that. So I wish the timing was different, because I think there's merit. I agree with what you're saying. I think there's a lot of merit behind where you're coming from on that. And, that just the way that the timing is laid out, it's a struggle for me. So I just wanted to make that comment that a lot of what you're saying, Bill, I agree with, and I'm not an attorney. I have no legal background, but I have a lot of concerns about it that I really appreciate. I think based on the recommendation that we've gotten from staff and, you know, Attorney Kramer, as much as he shared with us under that attorney-client confidentiality lens, you know, I just am not sure it would have been the appropriate move for us. So that's why it's not that, you know, lack on the issue itself, because I think we've got a lot there. So I just want to make that comment, because I think there's a lot that's going to be unpacked here when it does, you know, if this second motion passes, to have these ballot issues, you know, go to the community. I think there's going to be a lot to uncover in terms of what's going to be, how it's going to work, and what people are going to think about what position this may put the town in. So just wanted to make that comment.
Trustee Brown.
No, I appreciate that, and I didn't take it any other way, any of you. I understand that. I want to explain why I made this other substitute motion too, and that is because the same law that gives gives a party the ability to challenge on a pre-election basis an ordinance, also provides, it's an anti-development statute that says that no law effective August 6th, no law will be effective to reduce the density in any zoning area in which it is has a density as of July 1, unless there is a corresponding increase in density in another zoning district. So while this, I think there's no problem with constitutionality, it does violate House Bill 1093, which specifically says that effective August 6th, when this law becomes effective, you cannot have an ordinance that reduces density in an existing zoning district without increasing it elsewhere. And that's specifically what is in this provision. So having said that, I understand that's gone. I'm not advocating any further about that, but I do want to talk about the substance, nonetheless, of both of these, really. Didn't really have much chance to talk about the first one. The first one, you know, there's all this discussion about giving the citizens a voice. I'm all in favor of giving citizens a voice, but the first initiative actually takes away citizen voices, because everyone other than the affected property owners nearby no longer have a voice. There's a veto given to the adjoining property owners, and it takes away the voice of others. A government is designed to give citizens a voice, and taking away that voice is anti-democratic, and I think that's the major problem substantively with the first one. The second one is different. The voice is still there. I do think that it's a major, in my opinion, overreaction, but a reaction to Prospector. I get that. And, you know, I have objected to developments before near me. It's not that I'm completely insensitive to it. I think people are of good faith advancing this. I do believe, however, that on this particular one, it will seriously impair our ability to provide affordable, attainable housing, because the advantage to this particular provision is that it allows a developer to put a project together at less per unit cost. And everyone, you know, there's been all these comments about how this is just a boon to developers, and that's a bunch of malarkey, because the developer takes, if they have a workforce housing project, they take the risk that they're going to be able to rent or sell those units to a member of the workforce, and they know that it has to be affordable to that workforce in order for that to be the case. So every developer has to consider that they're taking substantial risk as to whether the units that they develop can be sold or rented, depending on which approach they take. And it's not a giveaway to developers, it's an incentive to developers to build the type of housing that the community feels that it needs. Now, we're going to revisit this when we go over the development code. I'm not sure how I feel about the specifics about the height bonus or the density bonus. There may be problems with that, and if Frank Tice thinks there are, that means something to me as a developer. And we will revisit that at that time. But I think it's premature, among other things, to throw out what a prior board has adopted as an incentive to create workforce housing in our community that we know is badly needed. So, and obviously, there's no mystery here that I will oppose both motions. I will be vocal about it. I think, both ordinances, I'll be vocal about it. I think there are significant issues, both legal and otherwise, and I think regardless, on the cost basis, if these pass, someone's going to challenge them, I guarantee you, and there will be costs associated with that. Whether it's town costs, I don't know, but there is no doubt in my mind that either one of those will be challenged post-election. Whether it's successful or not, that's up for a court to determine, not for me. I have my opinions on it, and I think they're fairly informed opinions on the legality issues. But I certainly acknowledge that it's ultimately a court that makes that determination, not me. So I will oppose this. I'm not sure how I'll vote on the motion. That's another matter. But be that as it may, I wanted to explain my position on that.
Trustee Eigel.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Town Clerk, I have a question for you. We, in our packet, you indicate 281 signatures were certified on these petitions to support this being heard here tonight. You needed 246. How many voters are there? How many eligible, active or inactive voters are there that could come to an election?
So as of the date, November 18th, I contacted Larimer County in order to determine that 5%. And on that day, they told me there were 4,921 active and inactive registered voters in Estes Park.
Okay, so that's why I thought it was a larger number, quite a bit larger number. I wouldn't very rarely, if ever, be inclined to say, let's make this an ordinance, based on 281 people saying, we think you should make this change. That being said, I'm very pleased to see this before us. I'm very pleased to see citizens that are willing to be organized, find common ground that they believe in, and bring that forward for this board to make a determination on how it will be handled. So I'm very pleased that this is before us. And I think that the right way to handle it is for the entire community to vote on it. So I think that that's the right way to go with this. But I want to acknowledge to those members in the community who think this board could take and just make that law. I think that would be short-sighted, and it would shortchange several thousand people in the community. So I wouldn't go that way on, I think, anything. But on this, I'm looking forward to a community vote on it. Thanks.
Thanks. I have to affirm the same. We're elected to make tough decisions and easy decisions, and that's good. And we're elected to take whatever feedback, positive, negative, about decisions we make. We're elected to hear the voices of everyone. In a case like this, it's clear cut to me that the population should decide. There'll be plenty of opportunity for everybody, pro and con, to make cases before the November election in all kinds of forums and the public media. And great, get that dialogue out there. I actually like the idea that it's at a November election. There'll be a greater turnout. The more people you get out, the more representative of a vote you get. So I agree with that. I would suggest we go to a vote on the motion. unanimously, we can move forward with this and scheduling it with Larimer County for the general election. Thank you, Town Clerk. Let me make sure I'm still in order here. All right. Next order of business is the,
I think this is the ordinance 1325?
yes, I'm about to read that and open the public hearing.
Okay.
Action item 3, ordinance 1325, replacing ordinance 722, considering the inclusion of certain properties located within the town of Estes Park into Northern Colorado Water Conservancy's municipal subdistrict. Will consider all information presented during the public hearing as stated with the other public hearings, and you can ask questions at any time. The public hearing is open. I guess the staff report is Greg White, attorney.
Yes, this is one of my projects, and this is a project to bring into compliance the town water utility with the rules and regulations of both the Northern Colorado Water Conservancy District, we've heard that as a district, and the municipal subdistrict of the Northern Colorado Water Conservancy District. We've been here several times before on these ordinances. What has happened is that we passed 2 ordinances 3 years ago, one for the district and one for the subdistrict, to allow properties within the town to be part of the municipal subdistrict and the district. Unfortunately, after we passed those, the district and the subdistrict came back to us and said, we need you to redo that. There were 2 reasons. One, they had a bunch of properties in the hopper already going through the process, which were included in those 2 ordinances, which totally screwed up their ability to move forward with those. 2, they added an additional requirement. The additional requirement was we had to provide the annexation ordinance for every one of those properties within the town. So that became a very difficult task, and I'd like to thank the town clerk's office, especially Deputy Clerk Beers and Chief Clerk, Town Clerk Jackie Williamson, for doing that. The first one we did a number of months ago was for the district. There were 63 properties. We passed that ordinance. This one is for the subdistrict. This is our Windy Gap water, and this is for properties within the town that have not been incorporated into the municipal subdistrict. And this ordinance allows the district to move forward with that process. There are 300 and some of those. So the problem was getting all of those copies of those annexation ordinances together. You have an exhibit to this ordinance that lists everything, and there's an annexation ordinance for every one of those properties. So it was quite a task to do that, but now we're moving forward. So this ordinance, adoption of this ordinance, allows us to get this to the subdistrict, and then they'll take that to the district court and have those properties included within the municipal subdistrict. Just to let you know, we have 2 more things to go through. We have to get those properties served by the town's municipal water system outside the boundaries of the town in the Northern District, and also those properties outside the town boundaries that are not in the subdistrict. There's about 100 properties that aren't in the district, and there's over 700 properties that aren't in the subdistrict. The reason for the difference is that Carriage Hills is about 550 of those properties in the subdistrict. So the subdistrict properties. That will be a different process involving petitions that the town will submit to the court to have the court in Weld County actually put those properties within district and the subdistrict. So following this, we'll move forward in that petition process. The good news is we only need 5% of those 100 for the district and 5% of those 700 plus in the subdistrict. So we don't have to get everybody's signature. So we will move forward with that once we have got this step done. So, anybody have any questions?
Trustee Lancaster.
So I'm sitting there watching in Carriage Hills and I am so confused right at this point. If I'm a property owner, can you just kind of say, if I'm a property owner and I'm one of these people subject to this, what does it mean to me to be included in the district and the sub-district? And
It means that
what's the practical impact on me?
If the district or the sub-district wanted to, they could prohibit the town from serving you water.
Okay. So if I want water, I really need to do this?
Yes.
That's a pretty good incentive.
Yes, the rules and the regulations of the district are very clear, and the sub-district, that we cannot serve district water, CBT water, outside the district. We can't serve Windy Gap water outside the sub-district of the district. So, yes, ultimately, that would be the ultimate problem, and that would be a very difficult thing for not only the homeowner, but for the town and our municipal water system.
Thank you.
Trustee Youngland.
Okay, to follow on that, they do not have to annex into the town in order for them to be in a sub-district.
No.
Has nothing to do with the annexation.
There is no annexation requirement at all, and there's no cost to that. The town will bear the cost of these inclusion processes.
Okay.
Trustee Brown.
I'm not sure I understand all this, but I really trust our water expert here in water rights, because I've heard you talk about it, so I know you know what you're talking about. Thank you.
We just hope that we just move through this so we don't face this in the future. That's what we're doing, is cleaning up some stuff that we should have cleaned up years ago.
Do we have any other comments here? I'll ask for public comments. Any member of the public can make a public comment on this item. I see no motion. Town clerk, have any communications been received in regard to this item, which are not in the board packet?
Mayor, the clerk's office has not received any comments on this item.
Trustees, further questions before I close the hearing? Trustee Igo. Oh, hold on then. All report statements, exhibits, and written communications presented will be accepted as part of the record. The public hearing is closed. I can take a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the adoption of ordinance 13-25.
I second.
Moved by Trustee Youngland, seconded by Trustee Igo. Any further comment? We can vote.
I'm looking for one more, if you can look at your devices.
Somebody miss it? There you go. All right, the motion, the resolution, the ordinance passes. Thank you, Attorney White. We'll move on to our next action item, and it's actually not a public hearing. Resolution 7225, increase contingency for the Prospect Mountain Water Improvements Project. We've got Director Bergston and Manager Wesley is back. And therefore, Ruben, you can go for it.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Coming before you tonight to request some additional funding for the capital project that we refer to as Prospect Mountain. We have a really cool, there you go, thank you. There's a long story behind this project. It used to be a private water company. The shaded blue areas that you see on the map are the actual footprint of the project. The red lines you see on the map was the district boundary or the service area of that former private water company. So just a quick walk down memory lane here. it goes back much further than 2015. However, right around 2015 is when the private water company went bankrupt. We were serving them bulk water. We switched, made some agreements. It became part of the town's property with the proviso in the agreement that the property owners paid for all the system upgrades. So, long story short, then we ended up applying for financing to actually get this project done. The project financing came from the USDA. We also got some from DOLA. And we are at the doorsteps of closeout. So with that exciting news, I'm going to hand it over to Jackie Wesley, who will give you a little bit more detail.
All right, we are close to done, but we're not done yet. Right now, everybody but 2 customers have been connected to the new water system. The last 2 are kind of a precarious construction, and we don't want to do that until the old water system is actually shut down. The tank has been completed, it's not tested. So we've still got to leak test the tank and put the tank into service. The pump station is installed and partially tested, not fully in service. And we've got a lot of restoration to do. As we move closer to final completion and we start notifying the property owners of here's what you're going to have to pay, you're probably going to get calls and people coming in and so forth. So we do want to keep you posted on where we're at with schedule. I do not have an updated schedule from the contractor on when he's going to finish. He had some snafu with some parts and got the wrong pieces came in, so he's waiting for the right pieces to come in, and until he knows when they're delivered, I can't tell you when he's going to have them installed. But we are getting very close to being done. So how did this start from a financing perspective? You'll see that on the right side, there's a USDA Loan 1, Grant 2, Grant 3. They numbered them that way. I wouldn't have numbered them that way, but that's the way it is in the letter of conditions, which is LOC. So we had about $4.5 million for a loan, and then 2 grants at a little over $10 million. Applicant contribution of $245,000, and that is the estimate from the letter of conditions on the, what's the correct term, Ruben? Settlement agreement, thank you. And then a small DOLA grant for $25,000. So that total funding package was $15,298. The left column table shows you how it's broken down in the letter of conditions. That is adjustable within each of those line items as long as we don't exceed that $15,298 for the DOLA or for the USDA funding portion. Want to draw your attention to the contingency item of $999,292. And we'll talk about that on this slide. So we have been using portions of that contingency. There were 2 bid alternates in the original bid, which we elected to accept and use. So that's $279,000 of the $999,000. And then there's been a series of change orders for almost $500,000 in rock overage. The estimate of how much rock we would encounter during construction was significantly less than what we encountered. So we've had to pay more for rock. We do verify that what we're paying the contractor is actually rock, so there's this ways that they go out and make sure they have to change equipment, they have to scrape it a certain number of times, and then Mike D'Antimo, the guy you met before, is out there saying, yes, it's rock, and looking at it. So we're confident in the quantity of the rock that they've excavated, and they're really done with rock excavation, so we should not see any more overage on rock X. The town requested a couple of changes, making a manhole entrance a little bit bigger and some valving changes for $72,000. That number 229, yes, that is a negative. We did get some adjustments in quantities to our benefit, so we found easier ways to lay the pipe or changes that we can make that would reduce some fittings and so forth for a $229,000 credit. And then Larimer County required something different than what we thought they were going to require at the time of bidding with paving. That's mostly on tall pines. We thought we could patch tall pines. They made us replace the whole road from curb to curb. So there's a significant increase in cost that was not in the contractor's bid. So right now, the use of the contingency is at $856,000, and we have a $999 amount. You may say, why are you here asking for more money when you have $140 left? Because there are some pending items that the contractor has said are in excess or are different from what he bid. We have not confirmed these. They have not provided adequate information for us to confirm or make an analysis of whether these are legitimate change order requests or not, but they are pending with additional information coming from the contractor. So we wanted to make sure that we adjusted the contingency amount to cover these if we needed to. I don't believe they're all going to pan out because I don't think he's got enough backup to support these items, but, you know, they have not provided that data to us at this point. And then what does that mean? So revised budget, then we would have the construction base bid price was 10 million, and then that contingency is where there's 2 additive alternates and all the things we've done so far, plus the pending things are included. And then we also have to pay for, because it's borne, the costs are borne totally by the Prospect Mountain Water customers. They pay for all the town time too, for when we are doing things out there associated with inspection or looking at things or whatever, then that cost is also included in that total budget. So we're asking to increase it to $15,800,000. I do not believe we will use all of that, but we want to make sure that we don't have to come back to you every time there's some little change. And that's an increase of $502,000. And I think that was it.
Is there any, I made it that far. Is there any public comment on this item? Trustees, questions or for Jackie or Reuben? Seeing none, do we have a motion? Or Trustee Eigel? Go.
So where will that money come from?
We have to figure that
$500,000.
out. We have a couple of projects that will look at trying to delay, or maybe that we over budgeted that we may not need. So we're going to work that with Tammy to try to find the right source to bring money in from our existing CIP, and then reallocate that into this. And then remember that they are paying us back, so it's really just a cash flow balance. So as we delay a project, if we have to, then we would delay things that are, just like when we talked about with delaying the Strong Avenue pump station, we would delay things that we don't really need to do right now, and then that would be reimbursed when they start paying back the money.
So it's just a formality that you're asking us to transfer money?
I'm asking you to let us work out with Tammy where the money comes from in the
Okay.
existing CIP.
I just feel some accountability to the community for $500,000 that they're going to have to pay for out of their pockets and not just through taxes. Okay.
Other questions from the trustees? Or a motion?
I move to approve Resolution 72-25.
Second.
Trustee Hazelton moved to approve 7225. Trustee Youngland seconded. Any other discussion? Trustee Lancaster?
Yeah, just for clarification for everybody who's out there. This would have no impact in any way on the ratepayers outside of this area.
Correct, all the costs for
So
Prospect
for
Mountain are
everyone
borne by.
else, this is just the people in the area are gonna pay for
Right.
this. So, but nobody, the rest of the town doesn't agree, we're not
That's
subsidizing this area.
Yeah, and you know, this is a reminder that this is a super attractive project from the grant perspective. They got 68% grant funding. That's pretty awesome.
We can go to a vote. There you go, 7-0. Thanks, folks.
Thank you very much.
Keeping that project going. I drove up there one time last year. I think we went up there, and it's obviously come a long way, most of the way. It'll be lovely to get that thing finished. All right, let's move on to Resolution 7325, contingent award of the Spruce Knob and Carriage Hills Water Systems Construction. We have the usual suspects, Manager Wesley, Director Bergston, and I also see Director Zimmerman on there, but we'll let Reuben lead off.
Thank you. I'm gonna just say a thank you real quick. Also, Attorney White came up. Bunny Beers and Jackie Williamson did an enormous amount of work to get that last resolution through. I really appreciate it. So kudos to them. Regarding the Carriage Hill Spruce Knob project, we got this great presentation for you. To talk about tonight. And I do want to make a quick point. It's very nice to be able to talk about Prospect Mountain Water Company because that same type of agreement that we made with those people is the exact same type of agreement we are making with Spruce Knob. Spruce Knob is a private water system. So they aren't bankrupt, but they did go through a process with the town, much like Park Entrance, private water system, to essentially we will take their system over, we'll be responsible for it. They are responsible for their portion of the project. So, just a quick overview, real quick. The Carriage Hills portion of the project in 1989, the town took over Carriage Hills. It was a private water, a lot of private water conversations here. It was a private water system. Town ended up taking it over. There's been a whole lot of deferred maintenance and capital investments that have historically gone on. However, nowadays we really look at lost water. We really look at costs for maintaining the water system. And so at this point, we recognize Carriage Hills represents our highest cost, highest frequency of leaks. Through some federal bills, money became available. Project manager Wesley put a project together to meet those nuances of the federal funding. We were able to get a $1 million DOLA grant and a $1.5 million grant principal forgiveness with a $3.5 million loan. So there's some very favorable funding that came through this project. Just a quick point of reference, the Carriage Hills project, I think most people understand where Carriage Hills is. Spruce Knob, that is essentially Joel Estes Drive off of Mall Road. This is a image of the Carriage Hills area. It's the blue lines that we're talking about tonight. There is this area to the west. This small area to the west is what we call the Schedule C. The additional schedules were put in place in case we received favorable bids, favorable construction prices. And so we will talk about Schedule C and recommend Schedule C as including that so that we can get that piece done based on the prices that came in. So this is the bids that came in, and this is where I'm going to pick up my notes here. So we had 5 bidders come in. The 2 bidders that were most favorable is Timberwolf Construction and High Plains. We're recommending these 3 schedules together. The low bid was Timberwolf. High Plains was about $200,000 higher. However, that is within it's less than the 5%, which the town board, we have a policy within the town for local preference. It is not a mandate. It is at the discretion, and they're dollar triggers. This one is so far above the $100,000 trigger that puts it into your purview that essentially this is a discussion that was important to have so that the public comment could be brought together with legal counsel advice and understanding the conditions associated with this project. I do know that both the lowest bidder and the local bidder are here tonight, so they will want to, I assume they'll want to make some public comment. So the complexities I do want to highlight, there's 3 of them I would like to highlight, and we can discuss at some point. The first biggest one, we are asking for the authority to make a contingent award. The reason it's a contingent award is because the loan hasn't been closed yet. And that's why the finance director is on the memo. So in order to get the actual money in the bank, we have to get the loan closed. In order to get the loan closed, we need parity letters. And it just so happens that there's not very many people in Washington, D.C. at the USDA office that are processing the paperwork. So this has become in a much slower process than we anticipated. The bids are required to be guaranteed until the 12th of this July, this month. So the contingent award is we would like to notify the bidder that's selected and essentially let them know that we cannot sign a final contract until we know the money's in the bank. We know the money's going to be in the bank. We just aren't confident about when it's going to be in the bank. So that is probably the biggest point in the complexities of the funding. The second and third items are closely tied together regarding the local preference policy. The 12 Spruce Knob customers, former customers, they are directly accountable for the costs associated with this project. There are common elements within the Spruce Knob Schedule A, because we're going to be using that line in order to close the Mall Road Loop, which was a capital project identified in the 1985 Water Master Plan. That's never been done. So that is actually they were correct in 1985. It's an important project to get done. And so that is basically going to be the first part of that Mall Road project. There is a property owner also that's benevolently giving us an easement to get through, which is going to save us a lot of money on the Mall Road traffic control when that project comes to fruition. So the common elements, what I mean by that is there's a bid schedule. Everybody puts in a bid. So for example, there is a line item for private water service lines. This company has a very old system. So within this project scope, the private, not town-owned, it will be owned by the property owners. They are paying 100% of those fees. And so when you total up 100% of those fees, the cost becomes much higher. I want to say like $20,000 higher for the High Plains than it would be for the lowest bidder. So another example of where we do split the cost is because that pipe is going to be part of our Mall Road project, we want a bigger pipe than what the people along Joel Estes need. So the town will be paying approximately 30% to upsize that pipe. That pipe line item, because of that split, then also it gets reflected in the final amount Spruce Knob will be paying. So essentially, with the second lowest bidder, there is a higher cost associated after all is said and done. And the third item is much more technical and legal. However, when we went out and asked the funding agencies, it would be SRF, State Revolving Fund, and we went out and asked DOLA, look, there's the possibility of this local preference. Is that going to have an effect on the eligibility of our grants? SRF said, fine, there's not an issue. And DOLA did not make a commitment. They just referred us back to the agreement. So that left some ambiguity, which is a legal issue that I will defer to others. So with that said, there is some additional information specific to the funding, which is definitely in the purview of the project manager. So I'm going to hand it back off to Jackie.
So for this one, we had an interesting funding package because we have part of it funded through the State Revolving Fund Loan Program and part of it funded with DOLA. With the State Revolving Fund Loan Program, there's two different pockets of money that they got things from. So they gave us two loans. One is an SRF loan, and the other one is a bipartisan infrastructure law loan. So that's why you see two different numbers for loans. So there's two different loans, but they combine them. They are about $3.5 million in a loan. And then the bill principal forgiveness is $1.5 million that's applied as soon as we close the loans. They take off $1.5 million. And then that DOLA grant that Ruben had mentioned. So it's just short of $6 million on the subtotal for the funding. As you saw in the bids, that's not quite enough to cover all the bids. So it's pretty good bids right now, and the funding package that we got with the bipartisan infrastructure grant or loans and the DOLA grant make it attractive for us to try to do as much as we can. So we would like to move the Strong Pump Station project, delay that a little bit because that directly ties to what we talked about in the study session with what are we going to do with the plants and what do we do with Strong then, because if the plants are in different locations and the hydraulics are different, Strong might look different. So it makes sense to kind of wait and decide what we're doing with the plants before we rebuild Strong. In discussion with our distribution supervisor, he said Strong Pump Station and PRV are in suitable condition for him to feel comfortable to continue to operate those with no major upgrade at this point in time. So we'll just delay the Strong project, and with that goes an 18-inch valve insertion. So those two together are really kind of one project. So we're requesting you all approve a CIP transfer of those two projects at $1.6 million to cover the $1.5 million that we need in additional funding. I do want to touch base on the project cost. So when we talk about a project cost, it's not just the bid. So it's not just here's what the contractor says the project's going to cost. We got to include our time. We got to include, permits and town stuff and contingencies and so forth. So that's why you see 9.8 there versus the 7 that you saw for the bid, because project costs are more than just the bid. We have spent about $500,000 to date on our consulting, design, so forth, getting ready to bid the project. We haven't spent anything on construction. This is just the consulting fees to develop the bid package and help us with the funding. So that means the remaining project budget that we have currently budgeted was the $7.7 million, and that's where the 1.5 shortage comes from, because when you take the $7.7 million that we currently have in our budget, we need 1.5 more. So I kind of did that slide backwards. I should have started at the top, sorry. It's a late night. So that's kind of where we're at. So we're asking board consideration of awarding schedules A, B, and C. We'd like Schedule C to not be included in the calculation of the grant and loan forgiveness given to Spruce Knob. They get a portion of that per our voluntary transfer agreement with them that we presented a couple, maybe months ago now. We are allocating the principal forgiveness and the grants to Spruce Knob and to the rest of the project based on how many customers connect. And then we also would like the contingency approval to be authorized the town administrator and utilities director to sign change orders within that contingency. So if we're in constructing and we hit something or something's different, without having to come back and ask you for approval of a change order, allow them, as long as within the project budget, the town administrator and utilities director to approve those change orders. And then to amend and reallocate that budget for $1.6 million from Strong and the 18-inch valve project to this project so that we can cover the additional schedule. And then again, mention Spruce Knob, excluding that from the Spruce Knob repayment calculation. So that's all I have.
Are there any, is there any legal commentary related to this? Is that too much of a fishing question there?
Mayor, I think it's a great question, and actually this was one of the items that in my absence, Special Counsel White took on, and he's here. So, Greg, do you have anything in response to that?
Well, I'm concerned about that DOLA piece. I mean, is that DOLA piece solid regardless of who we choose? Who we award the contract to?
Our contact with DOLA, the response was tepid at best. In your policy, you'll notice that geographical considerations shouldn't be used as for state and federal funding. That's in your policy for local preference. I advised the department that I had some concern about DOLA because they would not commit to the use of local preference to move one bid below the other.
But if we were to choose the local contractor, does that mean that if DOLA, would they still pay that base amount and we'd have to pay the differential?
I don't think so. I think the grant itself might be in jeopardy. I don't know. They would not commit. That's all we have to offer you.
Well,
The other federal grant, they committed and said that's no problem, but DOLA would not commit.
all right. I know that we've got some trustee comments and questions. I'd like to get public comment if there's public comment, and that includes the bidding contractors if they're here. And you'll have to introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. My name's Dan Jessup with Timberwolf Excavating. My home is in Greeley and 9019th Street. So I'm just here to represent our company and our interest in the project and our commitment to a successful relationship and meaningful conclusion of the project. We've performed numerous projects with the neighboring communities and counties doing similar type of work, and have provided references to the project team for all this stuff, and believe we're a very good partner for your project, and we're community oriented and very interested in the project and how we can help you.
Thank you. I'll ask if there's other public comment, including from other contractors.
I'm John Smith, 1011 Riverside Drive, Estes Park. I own High Plains Excavation, and I think it's great that our town always talks about the local preference and how we want the locals to do our work. And when going into bidding this with my team, we went in there with reasonable reliance that we were bidding this with a little bit of leeway if we came in close. And I would love it if the board would stand by that and go with the 5% preference. I think no comment from DOLA doesn't mean that they won't give us the money. They gave us the last words, and what I was handed from the town was responsible bidder meeting the grantee's specifications. The town is the grantee. And the specification, we have 5% preference for locals. So I just ask that you think on that. Pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you. What would happen, Attorney White, I have a question for Attorney White. What would happen if DOLA pulled that and we didn't get it?
I assume we would have to start over. We don't have the money to sign a construction contract, and we'd have to rebid it and take something out. We cannot sign the construction contract without having the money in the bank. So just like you, that's the reason for the contingency, is that we don't have the money, and until we have actually the money, we are prohibited legally from signing any contract that we have not appropriated funds for.
This is an interesting catch-22.
Yes, it is. And I wish I had more information to you, but I've given you what we learned from DOLA.
Questions, other questions from the board? Trustee Brown, or no? Yeah, Trustee Lancaster.
Oh, no, Cindy's
No,
getting
Trustee Youngwood. You got it.
Okay, so coming back to the dates again. So I think it was like in 5 days or something, we need to, 4 days, we have to either choose A or B.
Yeah, the bid package has 60 days that the bids remain open or valid.
Okay.
And then you can ask the bidders to honor those bids longer. But the first gateway is that 60 days, which happens on July 12th.
And have you talked to them about extending those two bids? And that way we can hear from DOLA a little bit.
The DOLA is not going to provide any more than what they did. They say,
It's
go
not.
back and look at the grant. That's all they keep saying is look at the grant. We have not, because we brought this to you for the conditional award. I think that's the correct word. If you do not do that, then we would go back and ask the bidders if they would hold those bids longer or rebid.
Because even if, I just want to understand all this. So we need to choose between the two, but nothing will be actually signed because we can't do that until the money's in the bank.
Yeah, we're waiting on, Ruben had mentioned the parity letter from USDA, and we've been waiting on this for a while. Everybody thought it would be definitely in by now. There's been some staffing changes and lack of ability for USDA to support this at this point out of Washington, so they're really going slow on sending us that parity letter. Until we get that, we can't give that to the SRF folks to allow us to close the loan for SRF. So we do not know when we're going to get that parity letter. We keep getting reassured by USDA, it's any day, it's any day. Then they keep asking Tammy more questions. So each time we answer a question, she gets another question back, so we still do not have that.
So really, we could decide between the two, but it could be really 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, who knows? But realistically, are those bids going to be, are they going to be able to keep those numbers for that long?
At some point,
that's not
no.
really fair.
Yeah, at some point, no, but I don't know
Yeah.
what that point is. You know, prices are volatile, they do change. So they're not going to guarantee their price forever,
No,
right?
and nor they should.
Trustee Lancaster.
My question is more on the other side, the federal money. I know there's a lot of delays, but they've been clawing back a lot of grants and things lately.
Yeah.
Are we at any risk of losing that money at all, or is that?
No,
is
we
that
locked
pretty
them all in
assured?
right before. If you remember when we brought this to you the first time, it was one of those, we sneaked in right before they started pulling back. So we had gotten everything locked down from the it's safe not being pulled back because of some sort of government reduction in available funding. So we're locked in on the money, it's available, it's fine. We just need the paperwork from USDA to close the loan for SRF.
So there's no chance USDA is going to pull that money back away from us?
DOLA, no.
Trustee Brown.
So I'm not sure who this question is for, but I see there are schedules A, B, and C.
Correct.
Is it possible for us, if we wanted to award A to one bidder, B to another bidder, C to another bidder?
I mean, I imagine you could do whatever you want, but that's pretty messy for all of us. I don't know, contractually, it's probably a Greg question,
Yeah,
you
would
know?
that be a problem for staff?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, wouldn't that also be a challenge for the contractors themselves?
Yeah, it might be. I can see that they might have all these
Right.
bids where they have to be together. Yeah, I get that.
And
Okay.
lots of times they bid it based on volume too. So, you know, if you change it too much, it
Yeah,
may
I get
affect
it.
their
Okay.
pricing.
Okay, so we won't do that. But did I understand correctly that the property owners at Spruce Knob will end up paying more under one of these proposals than the other, even though that proposal on our numbers looks like it's less?
Yeah, there's elements, Reuben was trying to go through this. It's elements that are common to what we would have done for Mall Road, because that's what we're doing for Mall Road, and what they would have to do. So we have some things like the pipe. The mainline pipe is a 12-inch. They're paying for 8 inches of that 12. We're paying for the remaining 4 inches of that 12. However, we figure out how to split that.
Right.
100% of service lines are paid for by the Spruce Knob people because that is not a town thing at the end. The High Plains cost for service lines was more than the TWX cost for service lines, which drove the cost then allocated to Spruce Knob higher. And the pipe cost for the 8-inch pipe from High Plains was more than the cost of the TWX pipe, which also drove that price up a little.
Okay.
So that's why there's a difference. They're low, but they're not really low when you look at the cost allocated.
So
to
our
Spruce Knob.
decision could impact what those 12 Spruce Knob owners have to pay.
Correct.
So it's not just us at issue, it's also those 12 property owners.
Correct.
And the other question I've got is escaping me at the moment. I'll defer, and if I remember it, I'll punch back in.
Trustee Agel.
Thanks for the presentation on all the bidders. The information that you provided with references, previous work, the detail was valuable to me to take time with that and be comfortable with a direction that I started to go, which was to recognize the value of investing in our community with our community's money. And I think that the value of us using a local bidder, if they are competent, they exceed standards, they have invested already in our community, and looking at the work that this High Plains has done for Estes Park, that feels like to me that we must go to that direction. If we are accountable to our community and we are spending their money wisely, that we go that direction. So I'm going to advocate for not going with the low bidder, and I would like to submit a motion that reflects that when the time is right, Mayor. Perhaps we can move into more discussion after that motion. But I think investing in the salaries, the community, the trust and the pride and the reputation, I think, will be an added benefit that we take from a local bidder who has to stand behind their work and look at you when they see you on the next project or in the community. So I feel strongly about that, and I hope to encourage the other trustees to support me in that.
You can make that motion.
I
Keep in
will.
mind this discussion that we've had where there's this tepid statement from
Understand that.
DOLA, but
I understand
you
you
may
could-
make the motion.
I believe that that is a statement that you could make a case for either way. And so hearing the way the contracts go, the way the timeline will work, I feel very comfortable in this motion. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I would move for the approval of Resolution 7325, including the local bidder, High Plains Excavating, in that motion. Is that correct, Attorney Kramer? It does say the low bidder, and that's why I'm asking for the clarification.
Right, Trustee Agel, so I would need to take a look at this resolution and figure out exactly what would need to be changed in order to make that work. But when we do that, we want to be absolutely clear what words are changing and what aren't. So, understood. Could we interpret the motion as instructing staff to revise the resolution as necessary? And, well, Greg, could we do that on the fly? Would you be able to do that on the fly? And so we would do, so the motion would be to instruct us to make those changes and bring it back to you all for final thumbs up at this meeting.
Well, you've asked us for that. The request is for us to evaluate which contractor we're going to go with and approve the resolution. So I would think that would be pretty easy to do. So my motion stands. I would make that motion.
Trustee Brown.
Well, I'll second the motion for discussion. I'm not sure I'm going to vote for it, but we'll see. I guess the thing I forgot about is that it is my understanding that we're not ever obligated to take the lowest bidder, even if all bidders are qualified.
According to SRF, that's true. According to DOLA, the grant says obligated to accept the lowest responsible bidder meeting the grantee specifications. That's the ambiguity. We don't know what that means.
So there's a specific thing in the DOLA contract on that. Okay, so legally, we're not obligated other than whatever the terms of that thing says.
And you lawyers don't speak English.
And DOLA pays.
It's hard for me to
1/7.
believe that DOLA would yank the grant, to be honest. It just doesn't seem like the sort of thing they would do. But, you know, of course, who knows? So, okay.
Trustee Mayor Pro Tem.
Veterinarians speak pure English. I have a question. I know that when we were talking ages ago about the FLAP grant and everything else, one of the things we were worried about is them not granting us grants in the future if we didn't abide by their rules. Is there any worry about that with DOLA? So say we decide to go with the local and DOLA denied their section, whatever, and we had to go back. Is there any fear that in the future when we apply for DOLA grants, they'd look back on that? Or no?
Mayor Pro Tem Sinak, it's hard to make a guess on that, but knowing and having interacted with DOLA for over a decade, that they're not going to look unfavorably at however we handle this application. They may suggest that we learn a lesson if they choose to claw those grant funds back, but I don't think it will impact our competitiveness for future grants.
Okay, perfect.
Trustee Lanecast.
Well, a couple things. I agree. I've worked with DOLA for a long time, and I don't think they would do that. However, if they claw the funds back, doesn't mean we can get them a second time. There are a lot of communities out there asking for money. And if they're willing to go with low bid and they can get more bang for their buck in Buena Vista, they're gonna go there and just take the money away from Estes Park. They're not gonna look at that. Can you clarify something? I think you said if we don't go with a low bid, the cost to the residents of Spruce Knob will be higher.
Yeah.
So we will make a decision that will cost the customers more money if we go with something than the
Some
low
of the
bid.
customers.
Some of the customers. Well, they're still customers.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still, I mean, if I was there, I'd be concerned that for some esoteric reason, we're gonna increase my water rates higher than they had to be. But that is
That is correct.
correct.
Yeah. And we don't have a final, all these things are calculated in the end when we know exactly how much pipe we put in, so it's based on the bid estimates, the quantities that are in the bid form right now. Same with Prospect Mountain, we can't tell those customers exactly how much it'll be until we
Sure.
know exactly what the cost of the project is.
I think we do have a fiduciary responsibility to be wise use of the public's money. And have a good reason to spend, what is an extra $200,000?
Yeah, 200,000, and then the Spruce Knob, what was that, 45?
It's interesting, though, because that, on the High Plains, when I looked at the 3ABC, it was the Carriage Hills portion. It was the Carriage Hills portion that had the higher. The Spruce Knob was actually lower.
It depends, each contractor's gonna bid unit prices where they think they can get the most profit for their company and where they think they can make the most, benefit and what their prices are quoted to them. So for Spruce Knob, the High Plains costs for the service lines were higher. That was a large driver, the service lines, which are 100% paid for by Spruce Knob. They're not paid for by the town at all. So that full cost is allocated over. The pipeline cost was a little higher for Spruce Knob from High Plains than it was for TWX also. So that split of the 12-inch and 8-inch pipe costs assigns more cost to.
So that's not shown on here.
Yeah, I didn't break it all down for you. Yeah.
Okay. Because, it would seem like Carriage
Yeah.
Drive and Whispering Pines would be paying more based on just
Yeah,
this.
Carriage Drive and Whispering Pines, that one is not paid for by those customers. That's a town cost. So B and C are totally town cost.
All right, Trustee Hazelton, bring us clarity.
Oh, no, that's not gonna happen. Because this is like a laughable question that I'm pretty sure you're not gonna be able to answer. But I'm trying to think a little bit outside the box, that if we went with the local bidder for the higher amount per Trustee Eigel's motion, but DOLA says, we only said, we didn't really give you an answer, but the answer is it's gotta be the lower bidder. Is there an opportunity to make up that difference with a different set? Could we say, well, then we'll pay the difference of the 200K or something to that effect? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, is there any negotiation room there?
I cannot answer that.
I know you can't.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Other questions from trustees? We have a motion and a second. I think we can vote on that motion and then proceed from there.
And the motion, would you read the motion again?
Whoa, that's not it. We didn't.
The motion was.
I can read back that motion in just a moment.
Well, the motion is, from Trustee Eigel, was that we would approve the contingent award resolution 7325 and award it contingently to High Plains, the local contractor. But I understand that you'll have to change the wording in the resolution before I sign it.
Yes, Mayor, so I was just conferring with Special Counsel White, and I think we would be able to do that. I can either
Yeah.
read out what those changes are now, or if the motion passes, after the motion passes.
Yeah, as he said, change it on the fly because I think we all understand the motion. I don't remember who seconded it. I'm sure it was you.
No, it was not me, I did it.
Bill, trustee Brown. Yes, we can vote on the motion, unless anyone needs more clarification. Go ahead. The motion fails 4-3. Do I have a second motion? We'd like to conclude this business tonight.
Mayor, I would move to approve Resolution 73-25 as presented.
Second.
Any further comments?
I just want to make a comment. This is really hard because I am a local person. They need to have the business. But I just feel, I don't think fiduciary responsibility of charging somebody more and then also having the risk of DOLA pulling that grant would put a huge burden on our community because that's basic, we would have to come up with the money. DOLA is, I don't want to mess with, it's hard.
Yeah, I
But
understand
anyway,
the
I just,
concern.
I feel bad because I truly believe in giving locals the business. This is so against how I work, but I just think DOLA and the fact that Spruce Knob then has to pay more, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, typically, when we're doing these votes, we have great clarity on the funding sources. To have this cloud in here adds to the difficulty. While I felt, and why I voted like I did with Trustee Eigel and Mayor Pro Tem, that the local award made sense, and I recognize it's a bit of a leap of faith that that DOLA will come through. I thought they probably would, but that vote is in the books at this point. Yeah, and thanks for the explanation. I think that's difficult for us. I think if you started all afresh and everybody were able to bid again, you might not have a delta there that we have to worry about. And it would solve the whole problem and the DOLA problem would go away. But that, I don't think, can be legally done at this point. So we have what we have to work with. So, do I have a motion? Oh, you did. Oh, yeah. Okay, we've got it.
We're
Comments?
discussing.
Trustee
Yep,
Ivey.
I have to stand up as a taxpayer and say that I make the choice to shop in Estes Park because I believe in the community. I pay more to shop in Estes Park because I live here and I believe in the neighborhood stores that make up the community that we live in. I invest in the community instead of buying everything at Walmart. I pay more for socks sometimes. But I do make that decision, and it's not a really hard decision. It's a decision that I intentionally make because I believe in the place that we live in. So I would challenge each of you as a taxpayer and now a trustee to make that hard decision. And I think that our votes are going to stand for what we believe in after this. And yeah, it's enough philosophizing here, if that's a word, but I think that these hard decisions with our votes are what we believe in. And so I am going to, hopefully there's a way that we can make this work for a local contractor in millions of dollars for a $200,000 difference. I hope that we shop locally here.
Trustee Lancaster.
Yeah, at another point, and I lost it listening to you, but I would say exactly so. I make that choice to shop locally. I was buying some clothes downtown this weekend. I actually try and shop in stores that are in the town limits, not ones that are just outside that avoid paying our sales tax, because I want to support the town community. That's a personal decision, and with my personal finances, that absolutely is my philosophy. I don't think I have that right to make that decision for other citizens and say that, yeah, you should pay more for water because I just think it's a good idea. I think we have our fiscal responsibility is different for the rest of the community than it is for our personal spending in that area. I do remember what I was going to say. I'm not sure that DOLA language is that vague. I mean, it does say we're supposed to go with the lowest responsive bid. And when they say responsive bid, that means one who has met the qualifications, has the ability to do the job, and is the lowest price. If they didn't meet the qualifications, if they were non-responsive, then you could go with the next highest bid. That makes sense to me. Because we've all seen bids that were low bid, that they've left a bunch of stuff out, or we don't have confidence they can do a good job, or, for example, they have to repave 4 times during the summer because of shoddy workmanship. Low bid is not always the best way, but a low responsive bid, I think the language is pretty clear. So I think it's our fiscal responsibility. I agree absolutely. And I would encourage people to shop locally and spend your money here in town. And, you know, I got so many t-shirts that say Estes Park on them, but that's all you can get. But I'm not going to make that decision for everyone else's town for their limited amount of money that people have that they're spending on utilities and taxes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So I might have missed this. How many Spruce Knob customers were there?
12.
12. And I know we can't say how much more it's going to cost them, but I look at it as being, okay, 200,000 divided by 12. I mean, is that way off?
Well, it's spread out over multiple years.
Well, I know, but it's still 200,000 divided by 12.
It's the difference when you allocate everything, because it's not $200,000 for just Schedule A. You
Right,
have to
okay.
reallocate, and town pays some of that because we upsize the pipe and stuff. So it's a roughly 45,000 more for those 12.
Okay. I don't know if that makes my decision or not, but I just
Yeah.
wouldn't have a
This is not
perspective of what it was.
Yeah, it's not easy to explain either.
Right, no, I get it. I just didn't, if it's, yeah, I don't know if that's gonna help my decision or not, but thank you.
Okay, sure.
Trustee Hazelton.
Yeah, I just want to explain the way that I'm looking at this is not the straightforward approach of, are we willing to pay a little bit more to shop local? I'm looking at it, are we willing to sacrifice the potential for $1 million on a huge project like this? And I think that is what's making this so tough. Of course, I would love to go with it. That's why we have the policy, I think that's how we operate, and that to make, I think we just have to be really careful to say that, what your values are in this vote. I think that's disingenuous. And I think that, because my values are certainly to support local, and from a municipal perspective as well as a personal perspective. But I have to think about, can we get this project done if we lose $1 million? Maybe we wouldn't, but we're gambling. And I think I have to make what I think is the most, the safest, the safest vote here to get us where we need to go. And that's where I'm going. I wish that it could be different, but I'm not just making a decision based on who's local or who's the lowest. I'm making a decision based on the likelihood of us getting DOLA, and maybe we would have gotten it, but I'm not much of a gambler personally.
Yeah, I just wish we could have had clarity. I think the decision would have been easy then. Trustee Brown.
I just want to echo Trustee Hazelton and Trustee Youngland in particular. There are a number of reasons to go with the lower bidder. One is DOLA and the risk of that. One is the impact to the entire budget of the project. And the third one, which I think we can't forget, is the impact on those 12 property owners in Spruce Knob. If it's going to cost them more, they might have some sort of claim against us for going the other way with it. So, I'd rather go with the local bidder. It's obvious that we've had great experience with High Plains and that they are a great contractor. But our decision has to incorporate all these other things into it, and that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'd rather go with the local bidder, but I don't want to take the risk on DOLA. I don't want to take the risk that some of those property owners object. And, you know, if it saves us money, it saves us money, so.
Let us vote on the motion. The motion passes, the second motion. We can move forth. Item 6, Resolution 7425. Thanks, Ruben. Thanks, Jackie. Thanks, Attorney White. Resolution 7425 revised the scope of work for DOLA EIAF B022 Estes Park Broadband Planning and Implementation. And I think we've got Director Bergston and way in the back row, Superintendent Lockhart, if you need him, so go for it.
I apologize, I don't have a presentation for this. There are deadlines within the agreement. We've extended this agreement in the past. We need to extend it again. We're asking to have the mayor basically sign a letter that requests DOLA to extend this grant. We do anticipate requesting another memo to be signed by the mayor that will modify the scope of the project. However, the bringing all of that level of detail together to present that to DOLA and to the board and the mayor for a future signature is going to take much more time than we have based on the timeline. So tonight, I can tell you that we do anticipate asking DOLA to eventually change that scope of the project to reduce it. Tonight, we will definitely be moving forward with the request to DOLA, signed by the mayor, to extend that agreement.
Does any member of the public request to speak on this topic? I don't see any. Are there questions from the trustees, or can I have a motion? Trustee Igo?
I would move for the approval of Resolution 7425.
Second.
Trustee Igo moved to approve 7425. Trustee Hazelton seconded. Any other discussion? Town clerk's office, we can vote.
I need one more vote, please.
All right, that
Thank you.
passes. Thank you. We are at about 8 minutes, 7 minutes till 10 o'clock. In order, I do not expect this tab discussion to complete by 10. I would need a motion to extend.
I'll move to extend beyond 10 o'clock to finish our entire agenda.
I was going to point out that if we start this, we can continue past 10 o'clock without a motion to continue past 10 o'clock.
Yeah, we've got another item after this. Yeah. And
I'll
so the
second.
motion was to complete the agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's vote on the motion.
Means you can't talk the whole time, Bill.
The motion passes. So we'll continue. Report and discussion item, we won't be taking action on this, but we will be given direction to staff based on this. Transportation Advisory Board, next steps. We're all quite familiar with the actions and movements that have happened with the Transportation Advisory Board over recent months. And at the last or at recent sessions, we discussed a couple possibilities. There was discussion about bylaw changes that would relate to how candidates are chosen, how chair is chosen, term limits, various other things along those lines. But in the course of that discussion, we began to talk about the role of TAB, the evolution or sideways motion or whatever that TAB had kind of changed shape and mission and purpose over time, and that's the nature of this discussion here. I don't think I have a presenter on it at this point. I think it's board discussion. I would set the stage by saying that I'm very happy that they delivered the transportation plans, including the multimodal. I think that was the project and the topic that was on the table for them. I would suggest that we discuss a potential of dissolving the committee. I'm not making a motion yet, and that if there are future questions on transportation, that we consider forming some type of temporary committee at that point, ad hoc if you want to call it that, with proper representation for a specific topic focus. But I feel that a lot of the things that we've raised in this forum in prior sessions include things like the town board should be the recipient of citizen resident input on transportation issues, that there should not be a separate agency that is the focal point for that, because every other topic comes directly to us. And so I think that over the years that changed its focus from what I can see in studying this. That's how I'll set the stage, but there's 7 of us here who can discuss what the future holds and give staff direction. Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, first of all, I would be interested in to hear Trustee Eigel's opinion on this, since he's been a little close to it. But I was thinking more of, instead of sunsetting per se, we have people that have a lot of knowledge and a lot of historical knowledge and knowledge of our programs that we have now. And if we did something more like in the lines of an ad hoc, keeping in mind the people that are on it now, that when we need the discussion or we need something, that we have a, I say like a list of people that we go to first for an ad hoc position. Just a thought, just another thing to throw out there versus sunsetting it completely. Yep. So just instead of sunsetting it completely, whether that would be helpful or not, just open for discussion.
Trustee Brown.
So I think I could go either way with this, because there could be a case made that we should have more advisory boards and not eliminate the only one we have. For instance, we've got the stormwater stuff coming up. It's going to be a major undertaking with a lot of capital investment and infrastructure issues associated with it. Maybe that's something we should have an advisory board on. I would say that regardless, I think there was a problem with the process in the first place, because if we can appoint a member of that board on the recommendation of 2 trustees, we should be able to do the same on removing a member of that board. And rather than requiring the entire board to have the discussion, I think if we had 2 board members making the recommendation, it would operate very much similar to what happens when we appoint somebody, without all of the community controversy that goes along with it. I mean, there'd still be some, for sure. But I think that's a failing of our system. And I think also if we keep it, we should have term limits because, you know, we have term limits in the Housing Authority, for instance, and other agencies that we associated with, and it's common practice here in Colorado. But I could go either way on the issue of dissolving it. But if we keep it, I think we need to have some changes in its, in a couple of respects, the term limits and also the procedure for removing a board member.
I have a question. If we're going to look at the possibility of putting it to an ad hoc, we would have to sunset it. And then when something comes up, a project or whatever, that then we would make an ad hoc committee specifically assigned to whatever it is that we want them to investigate. Is that correct?
It could be set up in any number of ways. We would likely make edits to policy 102, which governs town board committees and advisory boards, to create whatever structure the town board wanted for that type. It could be a standing group of people that you go to for each project. We'd need to set criteria for what project triggers their involvement. Or it could be a new set of people for every single project, and you'd have to set forth how that group is created. So it could look it could have a number of different permutations. It could look like whatever the board wants it to look like. We just have to make those updates in policy 102. So if the board would like to look at something different, we could create edits. I know there's an ad hoc committee reference in our current policy 102, but I believe it's pertaining to a specific issue or item, not necessarily a group that would carry over across time and across multiple projects. But I believe Attorney Kramer has the policy pulled up.
That's true, so I'll just piggyback on that if that's okay. The policy 102 does allow for ad hoc task forces, and one way to do it as you're describing, Trustee Youngland, where you sunset the tab itself, and then the town board sends whatever issue you all have that you'd like input on to an ad hoc task force that lasts for that issue only. And you could decide, as was suggested, to include those individuals for consideration who are on the tab now to be on any ad hoc task force that comes up in the future. By nature, it's ad hoc. It only comes up when it comes up.
Yeah.
So you'd be making that decision at that time.
Okay, so that's how I understood it. It's not, I just thought, I wanted to make it clear, we wouldn't be able to, we wouldn't just keep tab and make it an ad hoc. We would sunset it, and then obviously, you know, we would reach out to those that are on it, or depending upon what the subject matter is, and solicit, you know, people to sit on it based on their knowledge on the subject of whatever it is that we're going to assign to them, right? So,
Mayor Trustee Youngland,
No.
just to be clear, that's how the policy reads now.
Right.
The board can create any structure that it wants within that policy by
Okay.
modifying that policy.
I just think it's cleaner if, I would be more inclined to think of just sunsetting it, and then looking at doing an ad hoc at a time. Like you said, the stormwater, there's gonna be so many different things, and maybe it's not transportation, maybe it's, you know, for this,
We can always
this
have-
year, yeah, it would be stormwater, or, you know, infrastructure coming on,
It's
so.
almost like a focus group or something.
Right. That's what I would like to see, but if the other members would like to keep tab, definitely, I think it needs to have, I just don't think it's really necessary, so I guess I would be against it, so I won't go there with the term limits. So I would be in favor of dissolving it.
Let's see, Trustee Igo.
I have never advocated for sunsetting, ending, or closing tab, and I'm going to resist sunsetting it because I have seen the performance of the people, the individuals that are involved in it. And while I am warm to the idea of sunsetting and then drawing on that pool of people, I mean, we have engineers, business owners, residents, a bike shop owner, researcher, managers. These people are all residents. They all have a unique perspective on transportation issues. I think the group is well suited for that kind of consultation. And I think the really big advantage that we have with this group of people is that they have already stepped forward. They have been through an interview process. They have agreed to review and give input on issues that we asked them about. While I also agree that the board as an entity evolved into something different than what it was intended, or I think what this town board fully understood it was doing, almost working independently as a board and not so much as an advisory board. So I am in favor of using that pool of citizens as an advisory panel to this town board on specific issues, in whatever format that may take. I don't have a recommendation on what it's called or how it does, but I don't think it needs to meet every month, and I think it would be a valuable resource to abandon as a group of people who are willing to give us input that we ask for.
Trustee Lane, Cass.
Yeah, I have a few thoughts on this. I would support sunsetting it. I think and my notes here talk about more of a focus group model, where you bring a group of folks together based on a particular project. The mix might be different depending on what the road project is, or whether it's stormwater or parks or wildfire mitigation, who knows? But I think getting that in, each project is unique. It might need a different set of expertise. I think by bringing in new people, you get a better cross-section of the community than just a small group, particularly one that's there over and over again. That I think sometimes these groups can develop into a groupthink type mentality and moving towards a certain direction. And frankly, sometimes the membership is stacked in a certain direction or philosophy. I think we could have more of a mix if we did that on different projects. I think I shared an article, Greeley's starting to move to that direction with their advisory boards and going to more ad hoc type of focus group. I like the focus group model of where you bring in people with different ones and get that perspective of what the community's talking about. The other thing I think we really need to look at too, and I'm okay giving staff some room here, is who are they advising? Are we getting people that are advising the staff to help develop something to bring to us? Or are we getting them to advise us on a proposal from the staff? And those are two different things. I'm okay with, say, Public Works, getting a group of people together. Maybe they're Cleve Street, they pulled all the businesses down there, pull them together and they talk to them and get an idea of what the issues are and how to develop it with the staff. And they advise the staff and then the staff advise us. I remember a long time ago, somebody told me when you're talking about advisory boards and who's appointed, it really needs to be who's advising. And the example they give, would you want your neighbor to pick your financial advisor? Probably not. You probably want to pick your financial advisor because they're advising you. The same way here. So I think giving some room for staff, but if we want to have that kind of a focus group and hear what people are saying, I think it would be very useful, and I think it also gives more people the opportunity to come in. It also gives people to participate who don't want to commit to a 4-year term or a 6-year term and said, yeah, I'll come to 3 or 4 meetings and talk about the proposed, roundabout in this area that affects me. I think we get a more robust, more fresh advice and maybe avoid some of the pitfalls that we've unfortunately ran into with TAB moving on. And sometimes I think advisory groups look for things to do when we quit giving them something to do and they're still meeting every month, so they have to come up with something. Focus groups don't do that. They do their job, they're gone, and they move on and we get the advice from them. So
Compact.
I would be supportive of going to more of this focus group model and sunsetting TAB.
Trustee Hazelton.
Yeah, man, I hate going after Frank because you say so many of the things that are on my list. And you say him so much better. He says him say so much better than I could say. That was one of the things that I wanted to highlight too. Is I actually think that the idea of this focus group model and that article is really helpful because, for the record, when this first came up, I wasn't really supportive of it because TAB has been such a force for so long in terms of just really well managed and great feedback and good input, and people were really committed to the cause. It has been very valuable to me, not just as a trustee in this seat, but as a community member witnessing. You know, I attended TAB meetings as an individual before I was elected, just to kind of listen in. As I thought about it more, the idea of this focus group model, the article that you shared, Frank, that the ability for that to be actually a little bit more inclusive, allowing people who can't commit to the TAB level of time or energy or meeting time or any of that, it feels like it keeps that door open to more people. So there's some factors like that, and I want to make sure I don't throw there's no shade at members who have served or continue to serve. I think they've given so much time, and I want to honor that. And for that reason, I think the idea of using them as a potential candidate pool for a task force, request if they are interested in engaging in future projects, keep them on a list, and then can kind of evaluate as those projects come up where the expertise fits and works. But I would say, I just want to remind folks too, that this was a conversation that came up before former trustee Marching left his seat. And, he was on TAB for many years. We've had several different liaisons on TAB. It's worked well for many years under different trustee liaisons with different members and leadership. But that was something that Patrick had even brought up before he left. So it's not a topic that we've not visited before. I do have some concern about some of the things Frank mentioned about, potential for, I think sometimes, I think this happens in a lot of different ways when it comes to local issues, but I think sometimes when people have an issue specifically, they want to participate in a board or a committee based on that specific issue. And in my opinion, whether it's like a roundabout or a loop project or whatever, paid parking or whatever it is, and in my opinion, having a broader slate to advise us on things like that would be helpful. I'm hesitant of people who are issue voters or issue, they're compelled by specific issues, because then I think it becomes more of a narrow focus on that groupthink that Frank talked about. So I have some concerns about that moving forward too, especially in how, these past few meetings, our conversations about TAB, hearing from some of those TAB members, and I have some concerns about moving forward. So I think it's a great idea to sunset at this point with such gratitude for those who have served, and see if we have an interest in them continuing to serve in an ad hoc or focus group or advisory, structure. And I think that broadens our ability to hear from the community on these big ticket items that are coming forward.
And I think the broad discussion of ad hoc or focus groups can be separated ultimately from an action related to TAB. I don't think we can take an action tonight, but I've heard a strong consensus with the great majority, probably a super majority of the board, going with the sunsetting of TAB. Then we can discuss how we move forward on a future ad hoc committees. So with that being said, I would ask the town staff to bring an action back to the next board meeting that we can vote on for the sunsetting of TAB.
Mayor, my only concern with that time frame is trying to distill tonight's conversation into not only sunsetting TAB, but catching whatever else comes forward with it.
I think the two can be separated. I think let's resolve the TAB, and then we can have broader discussions in a study session or a report and discussion item in regard to, because we're not going to solve that tonight or give you enough direction on the shape of the ad hoc or focus groups.
And I think the ad hoc is a bigger discussion. It's not just transportation. It's other things that we
Right.
could get
Yeah, it
feedback.
is.
It could be water, utilities.
And
But-
it's what pool do you use? How do you
Yeah.
select people? All of
I have faith in the staff coming up with just the right answer on
Yeah.
how to do this, so.
So that we could make an action item on tab in very short order, and then we'll have a broader discussion whenever we can fit it on the agenda.
Mayor, I'll assume that's an approved unscheduled study session item.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you to do, is to make
Yeah.
it approved unscheduled, because it is, there's a lot more to that than just the meets the eye, because I do know even in the past when we've had different ad hocs, I have not agreed how the people were chosen for those. So that is a big discussion,
Yeah,
so.
it is. Yep. Okay, enough on that topic. We have one more topic, and it's our executive session to discuss purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of any real personal or other property interest, section 24640224A CRS, and for a conference with an attorney for the board for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions, section 246402-4B CRS, real property considerations for development of housing at the fish hatchery property. I need a motion to go into executive session and a second.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session. Is that all I need?
Yes.
I'll second.
For those purposes stated. Let's vote on that, and then we'll have to convert the room, and I will make one other statement before we convert the room while we're still online. So we have to vote.
Are you gonna hit me again, or?
Yeah. Well, you took a Coke and poured it on my jacket, and now we're even. Okay, I will state the following before we convert the room and turn off the cameras. No adoption of any proposed policy, position, resolution, rule, regulation, or formal action will occur in the executive session. All streaming services will be terminated for the duration of the executive session. The board will return to the regular session after the executive session, and streaming will not resume. We will not be taking any action in that subsequent board session. Okay, let's get converted. Officer Snyder, thanks for, how'd